Hello, everybody. Oh, my screen has just died. Why has my screen just died? All the technology is going wrong now. Okay, hang on. How are you going to literally immediately die on? Okay, 1 second, everybody. Whoa, gotta get down to the cables. Okay, we good? We're good. There we go. There we go. You need to move over to here, and then you can move over to here. And then we're all good to get started. Oh my gosh, what a freaking day it has been. Okay, let me get this camera sorted so I don't look absolutely horrendous. I believe it's an issue of the white balance. And all my settings are messed up as well. Oh, I love that. So I'm guessing these are currently a set of settings that aren't doing anything. Whoa, okay, camera going crazy. Camera going crazy. Okay, let's fix this white balance first. Let's just see what auto does to it. Auto does not do it well. Boo, 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 boo. Okay, it has broken again. Come on, OBS, come on. You got this. Okay, I need to just set it to 0, and then I can set it properly. My goodness. Okay, I have no idea what it's doing right now. I guess that's an okay white balance. I guess. I look like just horrendous now, but I guess it'll do. I don't know what to tell you guys. Okay, screw it. What does auto do? Auto does that now. Auto does not know what it's doing. Literally every time it just messes with it in a weird way. Let me just do this. Okay. That has reset the white balance properly. Okay, if we do it somewhere over here-ish, I guess. Okay, we look terrible, but whatever. I need to be over here. Okay, hello, welcome everybody. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry it has taken so long. Welcome to the Trans Network Voice Workshop. Yeah, I've been having all sorts of tech issues today, so unfortunately it is just our own Discord today. It is just Trans Network because Discord have just released an update that has blocked all of the multi-instancing, and my mic is all screwed up as well. Hang on. Apologies for these horrendous sounds. What a start to workshop today. Okay, alright, I guess that'll do. Gee whiz. Yes, so normally we would have all 4 of our usual Discords joining us today, or all 3 of the other Discords. So Trans Voice, Rainbow Library, the Diamond Trans server. But unfortunately, they won't be joining us today because it's simply not possible. Or there is a way, but it seems to be a whole rigmarole and I can't figure it out. So I'll have to do that for tomorrow. But anyway, let's get started. So, okay, workshop rules and etiquette. It's the usual stuff. Being as you're all my community, you'll all know this stuff, but for new people, make sure being super respectful of learning environment. I want everybody just make sure we're keeping things about learning. If we can avoid big distractions, we don't need to be. It only happens once in a blue moon, but avoid screen sharing whatever game you're playing. Maybe stop playing a game and pay attention because this is your learning opportunity now. Yeah, stuff like that. Don't spam chats and all that sort of thing. Be respectful of your fellow attendees. So make sure, generally, just leave feedback for voice to me. But if you are giving feedback on somebody's voice, keep it to actionable things and obviously keep it respectful, not to be insulting to somebody else's voice. But if we can also avoid things like, oh, that sounds feminine, that sounds masculine, because it's not very actionable. It doesn't tell somebody what to do next. In general, you can leave it to me. That's what I'm here for. And then lastly, make sure we're staying on topic. So we don't need to have any big rambles about the latest Discord update. We don't need any big rambles about what's happening in, I don't know, what's popping right now. The MCU, I guess. Whatever it is. yeah, just keep things on topic for the workshop, and yeah, we'll all take this learning opportunity. Lastly, as always, we have a one-on-one open forum section at the end. So if you want some feedback with your voice specifically, then stick around at the end, and I will take audience volunteers for as long as it takes to get through everybody. So yeah, you will get an opportunity to have just your voice looked at the end. Message from Addy. Hey, you're going to be annoying for a sec. He was just going over the recording from my workshop from a couple of weeks ago. You're only 50 minutes in so far, and you really liked most everything you saw. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. You want to mention that this soft-T chart doesn't necessarily scale from worst to best. I wasn't sure if... no, so essentially, I'll go over it when we do that specific section, because that comes up again every workshop. But essentially, as that graph progresses, as the bars go bigger, it's increasing the intraoral pressure, and generally what we're looking for in softies is a higher intraoral pressure, well, a higher supraglottal pressure generally, to create that reduction of, I'm messing up my names, increase supraglottal pressure to reduce the supraglottal pressure. There you go. There is a paper that I can find for you later about it, that that's taken from. It's a pretty cool paper. Okay, right, let's go through it. So most of you know who I am, because again, we do not have all the different servers with us, but to recap, my name's Zara. I'm the owner of Dedicated Voice Coach for you guys. So links on screen. I've been hosting these workshops since about August 2024 and teaching since October 2024. And as you'll have seen the server, I do lessons. If you have a little scroll around, you'll find the one-on-one lessons section, and you'll be able to get lessons there. Cool. If you have a cold, you can still exercise. I would generally avoid it. You can do the softies; they'll be fine. But generally avoid like doing proper voice training when you're ill. Okay, importantly, what am I not? I'm not a medical professional. I have no medical qualifications, and I cannot diagnose you in any way, shape, or form. None of what we're going to be doing today is treatment in any way, and I'm not your doctor. So yeah, nothing medical happening today. The closest we could ever get is if I hear something in somebody's voice and it rings some alarm bells for me, then I might just recommend they speak to a doctor. And that should only be taken as seriously as, I don't know, your friends telling you, hey, maybe you should speak to a doctor about that. That's the full extent to how seriously you should take that. Okay. Alrighty, so let's talk a little bit about the basics of voice. You sure have plenty of water with you. So a little bit about vocal health to start with. So things you should be doing are maintaining good hydration. Hydration is really important because increasing your, hydration is important because you need to be maintaining good mucus levels. Hydration is necessary for mucus production. So if you are dehydrated, you're going to be producing thicker mucus. So it's going to be, is it more viscous if it's thicker or less viscous? I don't know. The thicker one, okay. You're also going to be having issues of not enough mucus. That's all going to be going a little bit pear-shaped. Also, your mobility of things is also going to be a little bit just reduced. Ooh. More viscosity, more resistance to flow. Okay, yes, so greater viscosity from less hydration. There you go. Thank you, Addy. Yeah, so make sure we're staying hydrated. Everything's going to move more easily and it's going to be a bit more limber when you are properly hydrated. So it's really important we are staying hydrated. It'll help us avoid injuries. It'll help us to just do more. So stay hydrated. It's really important. You should be drinking about 2 to 2.5 liters a day. For the girlies on spironolactone, you might need a little bit more than that because spironolactone is a diuretic. Okay. Also, making sure that we are keeping nice and relaxed. Everything we're doing in voice work is, nothing is physically difficult. There might be mental effort that goes into it, but, excuse me, is that a sneeze coming? Whoa, it's a messy day today. Yeah, there might be mental effort that goes into it, and it might be difficult for you to do, but there should be no physical difficulty in any of this. You're about to hear me present this entire workshop looking like an absolute mess with a camera that is completely messed up. But my voice will not find this any more difficult than it would have in my original voice, my unmodified voice. So yeah, none of this is physically exerting. It's just going to be different, essentially. So make sure we're staying nice and relaxed. Generally, as we move away from relaxation, we make it harder for ourselves to use our voice properly, and we're going to be moving away from the sounds that we want. All the sounds we're going to be making are typical relaxed sounds that you'd expect in any voice. So that's what we should expect in your voice. And that'll also help us, again, staying away from injuries as well. Warming ups is really important. We'll go over how to do that later, but generally warm-ups are going to be really important for increasing the blood flow to the vocal tract. It's kind of like warm-ups for any muscle that you use. We have muscles in the vocal tract that we will be using, obviously, so that things can move. So it's important that we keep those muscles warmed up. Again, by increasing up blood flow to the area, it's going to help with the hydration elements to it. It's also going to help with general bringing resources to the vocal tract for whatever it happens to be needing. Warm-ups are also going to help with flexibility. Everything's going to be moving more easily. So yeah, warm-ups important, and they're going to help you avoid injury. And lastly, make sure we're having a bit of fun with this, especially for trans individuals, especially people that experience a lot of dysphoria. Voice work can be a very stressful thing. And I fully sympathize with people that express difficulties with voice training and stress with voice training. You do see a lot of doomerism out there, so try to have a little bit of fun with it. Try to just explore your voice, and you're going to learn so much faster that way. So have some fun with it. It's going to help you deal with the dysphoria and stuff if you just treat this as a fun little thing you're doing and, you know, remove those stakes a little bit. You'll learn faster, you'll get better results, and it'll be a less painful process for you, mentally speaking. Okay, things to avoid. Okay, spicy foods. Spicy foods contain a molecule called capsaicin. Capsaicin is a mild irritant. It's really not a big deal. And what you do through the day, I do not care. It's just right before doing any major voice work, avoid having an irritant, obviously. So yeah, that's capsaicin. I'm going to blitz through these early ones because they don't matter that much. Caffeine is a diuretic, so we're going to be losing all of that hydration, but we just worked hard to provide for ourselves. So that's an obvious no-no. Again, what you do through the day, I do not care. So long as it's not right before doing your voice training. If you're having lessons with somebody, don't have caffeine right before a lesson. Don't have any right now. Put away the energy drink. Yeah, caffeine right before voice work, not a good idea. Rest of the day is yours to do with as you will. Okay, sugar. Sugar, it also dehydrates you, but through a different mechanism. As you increase the sugar in your blood sugar levels, it's going to make it harder for water to leave your blood and enter your vocal tract. So it's harder for your body to be hydrated when your sugar levels are higher. It's due to something called water potential. Think of it as just like the same as diffusion, basically, but water. You can Google water potential if you want to. But yeah, higher the blood sugar levels, the harder it is for hydration to leave your blood into your vocal tract, which we want it to do. Dairy. Dairy is a weird one in that it will just increase your mucus production. We did say earlier that mucus production is a good thing, but in regulated amounts, okay? There is a proper amount of mucus production and there is excessive mucus production, and dairy takes us to the excessive levels, all right? So again, right before doing voice work, not a good idea. Rest of the day, up to you, okay? All right, those four, obviously not a huge deal. Last four, bigger deal. Smoking and vaping, obviously, we all know by now, smoking and vaping aren't particularly good for you, especially smoking. You're breathing in hot air, smoke, steam, not good for your vocal tract. It's causing irritation, it's dehydrating us, it's generally all the things we want to avoid smoking and vaping are bringing it in like wagonfuls. This doesn't mean that you can't feminize or masculize or androgynize your voice as a smoker or a vapor. It just means it's going to be harder. So consider cutting back if you are a heavy smoker or a vapor. Obviously, if you can quit, amazing. You can still get there as a smoker or vapor, but it's going to be a lot harder. So just, yeah, have a think about it, I guess. Okay, these last three are more in a group together. Strain in your voice, pain/discomfort, and tension. So if you start experiencing strain, we're usually talking like muscles tensing up, strain, tension. These are generally things that we want to be avoiding. They're not going to produce the sound you want. It will feel like a muscle like tensing up, okay? None of the changes we're going to be doing are actually felt that much. There's a slight experience to like raising your larynx, which we'll go over later. But generally, we just don't feel this a huge amount. So if you're intensely feeling a muscle tensing and doing something, it's probably not meant to be there. So avoid strain, avoid tension. It's not going to lead to the sounds you want it to produce. And then the big one, avoid pain and discomfort. This usually comes in two sort of core types of pain. We can have a general kind of fatigued sensation across the whole throat. This will feel similar to like the day after the gym, but around your throat. Not the end of the world. It just means that you've gone a little bit too crazy and you've fatigued yourself and you need just some time to rest. Now, while fatigue in and of itself isn't that big of a deal, it is a sign that you're doing something wrong. Because again, like I said earlier, none of what we're doing should require much physical effort. So if you're finding yourself fatigued, unless there's a specific thing you're working on or removing that is a fatiguing thing to practice. So for example, if somebody has a bunch of tension and we're trying to remove it, then what they might be taught is to add tension so they can get control, so they can then use that control to remove it again. That might be fatiguing, but generally just using our modified voice and voice training as a whole shouldn't be fatiguing. Your goals are to create something that doesn't fatigue you. And if what you've created does fatigue you, there's a sign, that's a sign that there is some strain somewhere, there is some muscle tension, something's there that shouldn't be there. Okay? And then the other kind of pain you'll sometimes feel is a sharp stabbing pain or sometimes a burning sensation. Okay? These are more signs that you're doing some form of actual damage. Usually we're talking a sharp stabbing pain, and usually this is going to have a very specific locality. Like you could point to it, like it's there, or it's there, or it's there. When we have that sharp stabbing pain, something's going very wrong. Okay? We are hurting ourselves in that situation. You are causing some damage. So you need to stop, reflect on what just happened, and try to avoid it in the future. If you're in that situation and you're struggling to really know what's just happened, get in touch with me. We have that little voice feedback section that anybody can use for free. Or just ask a question in the voice discussion channel. Reach out. Let's find out what's going on. Yeah, sharp stabbing pain always should be avoided. If you were to try to push through, generally this is always going to cause us some more serious issues. As we continue to damage your vocal tract, we can have nodes forming. As we continue to damage those, we can have those becoming polyps. If you were to end up with vocal polyps, very rare, but if you were to get them, they're going to need to be removed surgically. So they are a much, much bigger deal. I've never had a student have that. I don't want any of you guys to be the first. So yeah, if you're feeling pain, stop. Take a break, let your vocal tract recover from that damage that you've just done, and come back to it afterwards. You're never, ever, ever, ever going to be producing the sounds that you want from something that is causing you physical pain. Okay? Never, ever going to produce the sound you want. It will almost always produce a sound that you actually specifically don't want. So always, always avoid pain. Listen to your body. If it's telling you that something's not right, something's not right. All right? Cool. Okie dokie. Any questions about that as we continue forward? Yeah, ask your questions as I continue into the next section, and I will recap over them as we go through. So, how does a voice actually function? All right. I want to go over a model called the power source filter model. It's a really simple model that surprisingly works really, really well for what we're doing. The idea is essentially we have the air in our lungs, okay? That's going to be the power, okay, or the fuel for your voice, all right? That air continues to travel up into your trachea, where it eventually reaches your larynx. Inside of the larynx are your vocal folds. Your vocal folds are going to be flapping and opening and closing like that in a kind of vibration, all right? You can kind of see it in that GIF there. It's down there somewhere. You can see in that GIF, in that person's vocal tract. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I'll circle it there. We can see that those vocal folds opening and closing and waves coming out, all right? So that fuel is coming in and then waves are coming out. That's representing sound being created, okay? So as your vocal folds vibrate, the air that's coming through, that air becomes vibrated, okay? It gets vibrated. That we call sound, all right? Your ears pick up vibrating sound. Sorry, your ears pick up vibrating air, and your brain literally interprets the vibration of the air as sound, all right? So we have sound. We call this the source because it's the source of the sound. Our fuels come in, we've turned it into some sound, okay? As that sound continues to bounce around the vocal tract, it starts to become filtered, all right? It takes on the shape of that vocal tract. So we can see again in that GIF, all of those waves are bouncing around that person's vocal tract until eventually it exits as their voice. This is exactly what happens in your voice, all right? We shape that sound with our tongue, with our mouths, with our nasal cavity. The whole vocal tract is shaping that sound. That's why you don't just hear a series of notes from me, a series of tones. You hear words, you hear phonemes, you hear all of what you hear in my voice, okay? It's why you can understand it as speech, because I'm filtering that sound with my the filter, the vocal tract, okay? Mainly like my oral cavity, the tongue, that sort of stuff, all right? Does that make a rough amount of sense to everybody? You don't need a perfect understanding, but it's good to have a good overview. Wow, I'm so pink in my camera. That's crazy. I suppose a hair dye probably comes out okay. Cool. All right, no questions. So, how is this relevant to us? Okay. So, puberty things. All right. First of all, there is no effect that estrogen has on your voice. None whatsoever. The only thing that affects your voice is testosterone. And these changes are physical changes that are permanent. All right. So those physical changes are your vocal folds start to thicken, all right? Literally like there's your vocal folds vibrating and they like thicken out in that dimension, which is going to start changing for the way they vibrate, producing a sound that becomes much buzzier like this, all right? So now we end up with this buzzier, we could call it thicker or meatier, whatever word you want to use for this, heavier. We have this different sound to the voice that has changed due to that vocal fold thickening, okay? And then obviously my voice right now is what it would have sounded like if we didn't have that thickening happen. We also have a vocal folds lengthening. This is going to decrease our pitch. On average, it's by about an octave. If we're going for like a masculine, typical testosterone exposure, like AMAB, puberty, I guess. Yeah, testosterone dominant puberty. There you go. Yeah, generally about an octave of pitch drop due to vocal fold lengthening. We'll talk about later how actually that doesn't really matter very much. It's the other two that matter most. We also have the larynx lengthening, okay? So the larynx is, again, this bit of cartilage here. Remember, your vocal folds, the source, is inside of your cartilage. Inside of your larynx. It's kind of at the lower end. And then we have the rest of the larynx, as well as the rest of the vocal tract, becoming that filter. So as that larynx starts to descend, okay, it also starts to expand. We have a sound more like this, all right? This is because literally, again, we have the sound taking the shape of its container, all right, as it's bouncing around. To super demonstrate this, here's a ukulele. I'm going to tap on that ukulele. That tapping will be the source, and then as the sound vibrates through the ukulele and eventually exits through the sound hole, that's the filter. Okay? So that's what that sounds like. And if I just change the filter, making it a larger filter, okay, that's the only change I'm making, we hear that much darker, that more cavernous, larger kind of sound. You can insert whatever word you want to use for that. That's what happens when the larynx lengthens and expands. We just have a larger space, so we get that more cavernous or darker or larger sound coming in. Okay? And again, that's this kind of a sound. If I change nothing but lower my larynx, okay? So we have that lengthening and expansion. Now we have this darker, more cavernous sound, this larger sound. And again, if I then make that smaller again, now we're back to here. Okay? So hopefully in me demonstrating you all of these things, that kind of demonstrates that while all of these things are physical changes and permanent physical changes, the sound being produced from that change can be modified. So we can emulate behaviorally having not gone through testosterone, or we can emulate having gone through testosterone exposure, depending on which direction we're going with this. Okay? So, how do we do that? First things first, softies. Okay, we talked about them just earlier. Softies aren't going to change your voice in any way. They're not going to do any of the stuff we were just doing, but they are a warm-up. Okay, and you need to do a warm-up before you can do any of the next stuff. All right. So the idea behind softies, first of all, it's an acronym. It stands for semi-occluded vocal tract exercise. Big long term, don't be intimidated by it. Semi-occluded just means partially closed. So we have a partial closure somewhere in our vocal tract as we then start doing an exercise. The idea is basically all of that air coming up from the power, okay? All of that air coming up, intersecting with our vocal folds, is creating a lot of air pressure for them. All right, so if we then try to exercise them, we're exercising them in a high pressure environment, not the best idea. So instead of doing that, if we imagine that air continues after we've gone past the vocal folds, if we were to create a barrier somewhere near the front of our vocal tract, we then have that air pressure bouncing off that barrier and moving back down again. So all of that upwards air pressure then meets that downwards air pressure that we've just created, meaning some of the upwards is going to be cancelled out. Okay? Those two pressures meet, they cancel each other out. So now we have less upwards pressure pushing up on our vocal folds. Again, we have that the air goes up, meets a barrier that we're going to create, rebounds off that barrier, starts traveling down again, where the two pressures meet. All right? Our end product there being our vocal folds under less pressure, which is a good thing. Does that make a rough amount of sense to people? I know it can sometimes be a little bit like, what? First time round, but do ask questions if there's anything that is like not quite so clear. Okay? Cool. Okie dokie. So, how do we do this? There's a huge amount of ways we can do lip trills, but some are going to be better than others. This graph shows intraoral pressure, so mouth pressure, okay, air pressure in the mouth. As we do different drills, we generally want that intraoral pressure to be higher because we're trying to create pressure that then travels back down the vocal tract, allowing us to have our upwards pressure cancelled out, or at least reduced significantly. Okay, my go-to one is the lip trill. Lip trills are really useful and convenient because most people can go, and then all you do from there is you start moving your pitch around. So the lips there are your barrier, and they are, or your partial barrier, I should say, your semi-occlusion, that the air is then bouncing back against. Okay. Lip trills are really handy because there's less that we have to control. The muscles of the lips kind of just stay relaxed when you're doing this. So it creates just a really nice and convenient way for us to practice. The absolute best softy is the bubble phonation or straw in water as it's labeled on that graph. I don't have a straw handy. I was too disorganized. But basically, you put a straw in the water, you blow bubbles into the straw and make some sound through that. Ooh, into the straw, okay? Making a bunch of bubbles blow. That is objectively the best one, in that we create more pressure. We get some other benefits of it helping to stabilize your voice. However, it makes a mess. It's really annoying. You have to have a straw with you. You have to have water with you. You have to have enough water to be able to dunk the straw in. It can just be very inconvenient. So if you have access to everything you'd need for bubble phonations, by all means do the bubble phonations. But lip trills are almost as good, which is why I would generally encourage lip trills. If you can't do lip trills, then by all means go for V trills or raspberry trills. There's also the, I don't know what that phoneme is called, but basically it sounds like, okay, the little B thing that's next to the V on the graph. These are fine, like they're fine, but I find that students have a much harder time maintaining their air pressures when doing those. So if you can't do the lip trills, go for one of the alternatives. But for most people, I would encourage the lip trills. People just have a much easier time with them. And if you have the means to do bubble phonations, they're always the best, but they're just frankly inconvenient. And if I set people bubble phonations as homework, they don't do their homework. So lip trills it is. So generally, we're going to be moving our pitch steadily outwards until eventually we reach the extensions of our pitch range, okay? The highest you can go and the lowest you can go. And that's going to be how we do our warm-up, all right? So it will generally start sounding like this. I'll do a first few, and then I'll ask questions and give you guys a chance to join in. So, and we keep going further and further out with each iteration. All right? Does that make sense to people? Do you feel like you know how to give it a go before we all do so? And I say we all do so. Don't feel obliged. We obviously are streaming to YouTube right now, so there's no pressure to, you don't have to necessarily. I would like you to join in at home though. Melissa, I hear that you aren't today because you got a cold. That's totally fine. Oh, you think you finally understand softies? That's awesome. Having heard the explanation several times already. Yeah, that's awesome. If there's anything confusing about any of that, do ask questions. Yeah, anything you don't understand, we have as much time as we want, especially because I've kind of blasted through this early bit to catch up on time. So we've got as long as we want. If you have questions, do ask for questions. You're never wasting people's time. The only way you'd be wasting time is by not asking the question. So do ask questions, okay? If anything is unclear at all. Now I'm going to be drinking absolute ton because I was very busy and didn't get a chance to drink enough. Do as I say, not as I do. You should always be drinking enough. So, all right. Everybody that feels comfortable doing so, if you want to get yourselves unmuted, and we'll just do one big long pitch, big long softy all together. I'll go first and then you can copy, okay? So everybody it's down to do so, get yourselves unmuted and all have a little go together. Just for one person today, damn. Okay, well that is totally fine. Either way. Okay, here we go. We got some unmutes. Okay, all right. I'll go first and then you copy. Your turn. Nice. Well done. That sounded fine. We had some Discord settings messing up with that, but that's totally fine. Well done, guys. All right, let's keep going. Boo. So, all right, weight/glottal quotient. This will be your first thing where we start changing the sound of your voice. So we mentioned earlier that the vocal folds thicken during testosterone exposure. What this does to the voice, again, is it starts making a more buzzy kind of a sound. All right, we would describe this sound as sounding heavier, sounding thicker, sounding buzzier. So we generally call this, perceptually, we'll call this weight because it sounds heavier or lighter. Okay, again, this being the lighter sound, this being the heavier sound. Excuse me. And again, if I was to do things over here, now I have a light sound right now, and now I have a heavier sound right now. So again, doesn't matter where we are configured. If we have this buzzier kind of a sound that's in my voice right now, and if I was to shed all of that buzziness, so now I have that much lighter kind of a weight, this is the variable of weight. Okay. Now in terms of what this actually is, as your vocal folds thicken, the primary thing that changes is the amount of time that your vocal folds spend closed versus open in each cycle. Okay? Because remember, they're opening and closing rapidly as you speak. If we break that down, we have a close, open, close, and that repeating over and over again. Okay? So that close, open, close, we call a glottal cycle. And think of it as just like a percentage. If we increase the percentage that we are closed, then we're going to start sounding buzzier. If we reduce the percentage we are closed, then we're going to start sounding lighter. You don't need to go super into that. And for the nerds that like to read papers, we're not actually changing by a huge amount. So the closed quotient, for time we spend closed, we'd be looking at about a 0.3 if we are emulating a masculine voice. We'd be looking at about 0.2 if we're looking for a feminine voice. So it's not a huge amount of change there for the nerds that like to read papers. In terms of, for most of our engagement with this, we'll be listening to the sound change, okay? Listening for this kind of voice versus this kind of a voice, okay? That change in the buzziness, that change in the weight, whatever term you want to use to describe that, that is what's changing, okay? Now, how do we do this? Weight has a handy little connection to pitch that we can take advantage of to kind of just help us set us up where we want it to be. Firstly, if we were to move to a higher pitch, we'll find that it's easier to do so with a lighter weight. And if we were to go to a lower pitch, we're forced to go to a heavier weight in order to access those lowest pitches. So we can use that to kind of help us set up. So if we're feminizing, if we're trying to reduce our weight, then we're going to use a pitch hill. All right, we're going to start off with a lower pitch, nice and buzzy, and we're going to start sliding up and using that slide up to help us shed some of that weight and get to that lighter space more intuitively. Okay. Now you'll notice that I went all the way up into what some people call head voice or falsetto. Proper name is M2. I went all the way up there, and that's totally fine. You can go all the way up into M2 if you want to, if you find that's helpful for you. But now we've gone, yeah, I got this really, really light voice right now, but also I have this really, really high pitch. So from there, we're going to try bringing our pitch down again while keeping our pitch we're going to bring the pitch down again while keeping our weight stable, okay? So now I have my pitch back down again, but I still have that nice and gentle weight. This is what we're looking for, okay? Again, it sounds like this. So now I have my pitch back down again, so I can go into some talking at my ordinary pitch while having my lighter perceptual weight. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Any confusion on that one? Any questions on that one? No questions. Okie dokie. All right, in that case, let's go to the weight gaining version of this, the masculizing version. So if you wanted to try and make your voice heavier, wanting to emulate some testosterone exposure, then we're basically just going to do the opposite. Again, as we go to lower pitches, we are forced to increase our weight past a certain point. Now, a neat little thing you'll find, as you try to go as low as you possibly can go in pitch, eventually your voice is going to meet this point where everything gets a bit weird, okay? We call that weird point the grave extension. It sounds kind of sludgy, it sounds really heavy, you'll probably have a bunch of fry coming into it. It's going to be this weird sound. You'll know it as soon as you hear it, okay? If I was to demonstrate that real quick. So now I have a really weird voice as I was going through that, okay? So what we're going to do is we'll go all the way down there to the lowest notes we can get. We're going to find that heavy weight within it, and we're going to drag it back up to our normal pitch again. Now, as you're doing this, you may find, if you're a beginner to this, that fry comes along with it. If that happens, that's completely fine, all right? In time, I want you to be able to distinguish these and separate them so the fry doesn't come up. But as you're first learning this, it's fine so long as that heaviness comes up, all right? As long as we get that stable, heavy weight, don't worry about the rest. In time, as you get better at it, start removing that fry again so that only the heavy weight comes back up, okay? Again, it'll sound like this. Okay, and now I have that really, really heavy voice. You can hear that buzziness in my voice right now. It's a really, really heavy sound. This is going to be that heavier vocal weight. Okay, does that make sense? It can be a little bit of a confusing one until you have a go at it, because it can be weird to like listen to what it is that I'm bringing up. It just seems like suddenly I magically have a buzzier sound. And it's because as we go into that grave extension, we've got a lot of variables suddenly coming into play. So again, if you end up going like, and you have all of this fry coming in as you have all of that buzziness as well, that's fine for now. Just in time, one of your goals is going to be removing that fry. Again, fry is this kind of a sound where we have this crackling in the voice. So yeah, early on, don't worry about it, but in time, that wants to be a goal to remove it. And if you decide you want fry eventually, that's fine as well, but I want you introducing that as a separate variable, okay? So for everybody, regardless of whether you want fry in your voice or not, remove a fry in this stage, so if you're only bringing up the heaviness, and then fry, if you're wanting, we add it separately, okay? So we have these two sliders that we can manipulate individually, all right? Being weight and fry. Cool. Again, any questions on that? Does that make sense to everybody? You're going to see me drinking a whole lot today. And you should be too. You should also be drinking lots and lots. Okie dokie. Do I go over these next couple of ones? What happens if you go for a lower adduction slide down? Okay. Generally, not generally, always. We don't want to be mixing up, adduction versus hyperadduction. Okay. As we go down, or as we're doing this, I'm not after a sound kind of like this. That's going to be hyperadduction. I'm looking for. You can hear how one has like this big effortful sound, all right? Whereas the other doesn't. I don't want this big effortful sound coming in. So adduction is where our vocal folds are kind of locking up as they go. Okay, they're having that extra closure, and yeah, they're really together. We have abduction wherever they're apart. Again, the word adduction is bring together. Abduction means take apart. So we want to be avoiding that adduction sound when we're doing these pitch troughs. All right. If you're doing a heavy voice, adducted voice, you'll kind of hear it as like an intensity or like an effort sound. You'll also experience it in that it'll feel like your breathing is kind of weird, as if it's harder to get the air through. And that's literally what's happening. Like if we're imagining we are hyper adducted, then that air, because we are too closed and we're not having that opening properly, then the air isn't going to be able to come through as we're to be vibrated. Obviously, if we were completely adducted, then no air would come through at all. So what happens if you go for a lower adduction slide down? I misread your message, Addy. I've completely just answered a completely separate question. If you're going for a lower adduction slide down, so a lower adduction would mean less of our vocal folds coming together. What happens if you go for a lower adduction slide down? Wouldn't that just produce you wouldn't be able to, right? As we go to a lower pitch, eventually we're going to have our vocal folds having longer contact time, which is going to set our adduction. Yeah, but remember, as we go to a lower pitch, the pitch is going to be the thing that forces us into our heavier state. Because if we have a lower adduction, I mean, depending on what specifically you mean by lower adduction, I'm assuming that you mean like lower than would produce our heavy weight, because we don't have enough contact time, or enough closure time, I should say. Like if we're in that sort of 0.2 CQ kind of thing, then we wouldn't be able to access those lower pitches. So if you go to those lower pitches, you'll end up getting that extra closure, that extra adduction to bring that heavier weight. Does that answer your question, Addy? I hope it does. Let me know if it doesn't. Yeah. Interested in my take. Yeah, fair enough. So adduction is going to be more closure. So if we're thinking about what weight is on a more literal level in terms of anatomy and mechanics, then increasing the amount of time we spend closed versus open is going to be what brings us that buzzier voice. Obviously, if you take that way too far, so again, we're looking for a closed quotient of about 0.3. If you're going way higher than that, then you're going to have some hyper adduction going on because we're going to be too closed, not enough air is going to get through. So if we were to be lowering that adduction, going the other way, then presumably we wouldn't get to a heavier weight. If we're talking, it depends on what level of the spectrum you're referring to, Addy, but I'm assuming you're talking close to that 0.2 end, so we just wouldn't be able to access lower pitches. I suppose if you were to maintain a lighter weight as you were to go just lower in pitch, then eventually the sound will just cut out. So it'll kind of sound like this. Where the sound just completely cuts out, and that's because I haven't increased that closed quotient, that heavier weight. So generally, you're probably not going to do that, but that can happen. If that is happening, then just bring your voice back, okay? As you bring your voice back, you will end up with a heavier weight by necessity. That is how you're bringing your voice back. Hopefully that makes a reasonable amount of sense, Ruby. Okay, these next couple of exercises are more of a mimicry style exercise. I'm less of a fan of these. Generally, the pitch hill versus pitch trough are my go-tos. And those are what I use in lessons, unless we have a specific issue with those. But these are other things that you can try if you'd like to. So the ASMR voice, we're basically thinking softly spoken ASMR, if you've ever looked at that on YouTube. People kind of sound like this for softly spoken ASMR. We have this very, very lightweight. We tend to also have a slight volume adjustment, so watch out for that. Don't get volume and weight confused. Again, I can be quite loud at a lighter weight, and I can be quite quiet at a heavier weight. It isn't the same as volume, but that is the issue that comes with mimicry things. There'll always be other things that come in. But yeah, ASMR voice versus on the other end, we have sports announcer voice. Oh my god, yes, sports, things to do with sports. Nice shot, batter out, strike. I'm literally just copying all of those from esports. Things to do with sports, okay? Yeah, we have this kind of heavier voice that comes with sports announcements, and we're just going to be emulating those sports announcements. I just go with the Wii Sports voice because I know nothing about sports. But yeah, if you give a good nice shot, that's going to bring you that heavier weight. Okay, so you can use those to compare the two. Again, watch out for the volume conflation there. If that's not very intuitive for you, don't worry about it. You can also try. Imagine you have something cute, okay, in your arms. It could be a baby, it could be a kitten, it could be a puppy. I need to raise this up slightly so you can see if I've got my arms together. Yeah, got a baby, a kitten, puppy, whatever you find cute, snake, I don't know. Oh, we're just going to coo at it, okay? Imagine it's like falling asleep. Cute baby. Very, very nice baby. Okay? And now that baby has just been sick on you, or that animal's just bit you. Gross, baby. Gross. Or, puppy. Stop biting me. Okay? Again, we'll tend to bring in a bit of a volume conflation there, because when you're shocked and you're like, usually your volume increases, but also usually your weight increases. So it's about, we could then bring the volume down. Versus aww, that's that heaviness versus the lightness. So if you want to explore it through some mimicry style stuff, then you can do that. Generally, what I would recommend is the pitch hill and pitch trough. It's going to be easier for most people. You don't have to kind of intuit your... Oh, it has those things to help you intuit your way there, whereas the others don't necessarily. You're kind of just copying what I do, basically. But by all means, give it a go, because if it is super intuitive for you, then you'll learn really quickly for it. Lastly, we have the yawn voice. This is my least favorite of these. And generally, I would only say if you're really struggling, firstly, this only helps for lightening your weight. Sorry, there isn't a version for increasing weight, getting heavier. Yeah, this is my least favorite. Only do this one if you just can't manage with any of the others, and only use it as an exploration so you can then go into doing that in one of the proper drills. Okay? Generally what we're going for though is a big old yawn. Take that into a little bit of talking. Okay? Now you'll find that this immediately gives you a really large sound. Okay, that filter stuff we were talking about before, because when we yawn, our vocal tract expands a whole bunch. I literally can't do that without yawning for real. The vocal tract expands a whole bunch to facilitate the yawn, and we also get a much lighter weight. So you can hear in my voice I have this much lighter weight. Now again, generally I don't want you using this as a drill, because it gives you that very specific voice. It's not very maneuverable. You're not learning much. But I don't mind you using it just to get a taste of what lightweight is, to then bring you back to the proper drills, to teach you this more fully. So if you're really struggling and you need an emergency just help, this isn't working, try the yawn voice, get used to what that light sound sounds like in your voice, and then take that into one of the other drills, ideally the pitch ones. Okay? Okie dokie. So, some common problems you can run into with this. Firstly, for the people that are going for lighter perceptual weight, you might find yourself going breathy. Breathiness kind of sounds like this, where I have all of this air coming through my voice. You don't want that, all right? Breathiness and light weight are different things, okay? Completely different things. Again, this is my voice sounding really breathy. This is my voice with a light weight. I guess technically it's lightweight plus breathiness. I could go even, so I could have a heavier weight while also being breathy. And it's not what you're going for. So what I have right now is breathiness. It's not a light weight. Obviously, that's a huge amount of breathiness. Most people will just do something kind of like this. Huge amount of breathiness to show you what it is. You want to be avoiding it. All right? Cool. And if you like breathiness in your voice, that's totally fine. Bring it in later. Don't bring it in accidentally during this. Bring it in intentionally later and get this as a correct isolated variable of just changing your weight. All right? Okay, hyperadduction versus hyperabduction. We talked a little bit about hyperadduction earlier. If we are spending way too much time closed, then the air's not going to be able to get out properly. And again, that kind of sounds like this, where we have this really, really like tense sound to our voice, and it sounds like the air like isn't being able to get through properly, which is literally what's happening. It'll kind of mess with your breathing a little bit. You'll feel like you have to breathe out to breathe in again, because that air is being held back. You're not being able to phonate properly. Then at the other end, that's typically going to come in, by the way, for the people going for a heavier weight. As you do the pitch trough, you might find yourself getting some hyperadduction. Watch out for that. You do not want it. At the opposite end, if you are lightening, you might find yourself going into some hyperabduction. Again, we don't want this. Hyperabduction kind of sounds like this, where we haven't got enough proper closure in our voice. So instead, our false vocal folds, you have these like little pretend ones up here. They're normally meant to just be there for protection, but you can attempt to use them for phonating, for producing sound. They will try to become that source. They're bad at it, okay? They're your false vocal folds, not your true vocal folds. So as they attempt to become your source, because you're not doing it properly with your true vocal folds, you have this really tense sound to the voice. There's probably an unpleasant sensation that accompanies it. There can be some discomfort with this, a slight burning sensation. You want to avoid it. Again, hyperabduction sounds like this, whereas a light weight sounds like this. Very, very different sounds, okay? You heard the expression raspy. This is that raspy quality that's coming in, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Any other questions about weight or quotient? I see some typing, so I'll wait for that question to come through. Your default voice is breathy. How would you recommend dealing with it? I would say try to remove that breathiness temporarily. Just learn to control the breathiness. So you can just kind of take it away while you're doing this and then bring it back in afterwards. Just so that you can learn weight as an independent variable from breathiness, okay? So try to just not be breathy as you go through your... are we masculizing or feminizing? I assume because you mentioned breathiness, but we're feminizing. So if you're going through a pitch hill, just try to do your pitch hill and be practice immediately afterwards, non-breathy. And then as you get good at this, you can absolutely bring that breathiness back in. Assuming that you're wanting to keep your breathiness, obviously. If you're needing to gain more control of your breathiness, just increase it to gain control so you can then start taking it away. Because if you can do more of something, then necessarily you can do less of something. Yeah? It's control that you're developing there. Yeah? Cool. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okie dokie. All right, let's keep going then. So, this is the big one. All right? Feminizers, start with your weight stuff. Masculizers start with this, okay? Size, resonance, larynx height. There's a whole bunch of names for this one. And then you'll be switching over afterwards. So, first of all, what are all these names, all right? Size, first of all, we talked about earlier, the guitar versus the ukulele, it get big, all right? Size, vocal tract size, getting bigger, okay? Also, the sound kind of sounds bigger or smaller, so we can also call it size from that perspective, that more perceptual lens. So that's where the size name comes in. Resonance is a name that comes in because we're talking about the resonators of the vocal tract, the filters, okay? That's just a fancy word for the filters of the vocal tract. So as you change the resonators, the voice of a sound resonates differently. So we can kind of describe that as the resonance changing. And then larynx height, the way we control all of this is your larynx go up or your larynx go down, okay? To put it simply. So again, whatever word you use for this, and you can make up your own word for this if you want to, what's happening here is the sound going from something like this to the sound going from something like this, okay? And literally what's happening as I do this is my vocal tract is just moving up and down as I go through my talking, okay? You can literally see this. How do I do this with a mic also? Okay, hopefully I'm close enough to my camera that you can see my cartilage here, my larynx, okay? You can kind of see it sticking out there. There's my Adam's apple, and you've got all this kind of tough cartilage around here, okay? Hopefully you can see that in the camera, fingers crossed, because I need to be near the mic to do this thing. But we can do that exact same thing that we were doing with the guitar and ukulele earlier, where we were tapping it to produce that source. We can actually do that with our vocal tract to really see that what's happening is this larynx changing shape and size, okay? So if I was to go, and hopefully you could see that my larynx was moving down and back up again. My phone is vibrating. Just a alarm saying that my dog needs her meds. So my larynx moving up and down is what's literally happening, okay? Now, for controlling this, we're going to use an exercise, okay? Because I want you focusing on the sound, not on moving your larynx physically, all right? So what we're going to do is an exercise. We start off with something called Big Dog, Little Dog, and then we go through my adapted version, all right? Big Dog, Little Dog, the idea is essentially, you start off, you can all try this out at home, just pant like a big dog, okay? You'll probably produce a sound something like this. Now try to pant like a small dog, something like a Pomeranian or a Chihuahua. You probably just made a sound something like this. Okay, so we have that. Now what's happening as we pant is we're essentially whispering. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just whispering. All I'm doing right now is whispering. And all I'm doing right now is whispering. I'm whispering right now. Okay, so this is just a whisper. And what happens when we're whispering is our vocal folds, they just stay open. Okay? And because they just stay open, they're not vibrating, we never really have that source occurring. Okay? So because we don't have the source, we don't quite have pitch as we normally would. Now, technically, pitch is still occurring because of false vocal folds exist. But we have air vibrating anyway because it's moving through the vocal tract, but don't worry about that right now. The point is, our true vocal folds aren't producing pitch like you'd expect them to when we're talking. We can take advantage of that, all right? When we have our whispers going from a sound like this, going all the way to a sound like this, none of what's happening to my voice right now is a pitch change. There is no pitch happening because we're all whispering, okay? So all of that change is actually the filter changing because we bypass that source, so we just have power, filter. So all of the change to the sound is just the filter changing, all right? In terms of us going from a sound like this to a sound like this. So that's the idea behind that Big Dog, Little Dog. Now, one issue with big dog, little dog, okay? We can make a sound like this, which would be you doing it correctly, but it can also be intuitive to go. You kind of end up with a brighter sound when you do that. It kind of sounds more like a little dog. Problem is, however, think about this filter. There's more than just the larynx, okay? Remember, as I produce words and stuff, my tongue's moving around, my mouth's moving around, all of these things are part of your filter as well. So we have our whole vocal tract that is our filter. But we're only wanting to change this first bit of a filter, the larynx, all right? Because I don't want you messing with the sound of your words. I don't want you changing your pronunciation just to sound more feminine or to sound more masculine. I want you to be able to speak exactly how you normally speak, but with that larger size there. And again, it's the larynx that changed during our testosterone exposure. So it's the larynx that we're going to adapt to emulate not having had it or having had it, if we haven't already. You remember in a previous workshop, it was only something you move with exercises. Were you doing an exercise there, or do you get to self-controlled larynx movement in, like, let's say 406, if this is Transvoice 101? Yeah, so you want to be just sticking with the exercise. Obviously, because I've done this a billion times, I can just control it. But again, I'm controlling it through the sound. I'm not controlling it physically. I'm not going raise larynx, descend larynx. I'm changing the sound, okay? The exercise is to help you learn to change your sound. For you guys, just stick with the exercise. It's there for a reason. But yeah, to get back on what was on, we don't want our oral space changing, or our nasal space, or anything up here. We want it to all be over here, all right? So instead of having our big dog, little dog, which kind of encourages a little bit of over here change, we're instead going to go for whispered words, all right? It's the exact same concept, because again, big dog, little dog, it's just you whispering. So instead of going, you're just going to have a word. Cheese, cheese, cheese. Okay? And then we're going to move that word, making it smaller, just like we did in our little dog pant. Sorry, I keep knocking my mic. So instead of going, we instead go, cheese, 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 cheese. Or, ba, 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 ba. And the reason I've chosen those specific words is in terms of our other areas of a filter and making them smaller or larger. Well, the smallest vowel that we can use is our E, okay? So cheese means we've already got this as small as possible, meaning that the only thing you have left to change is your larynx positioning, okay? So, cheese, 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 cheese. By using the word cheese, you guarantee that by changing the sound, it's a larynx raising that's changing. And on the flip side, if you're enlarging, pour is a really large sound. So we already start large. The only thing left that we can do is the correct thing. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? In terms of what we're doing here, in terms of why the words are what they are. And see you to the people that had to go just now. See you later, Talia. Yeah, does that make sense to everybody? Any questions on that? This can be quite a big topic, and it can be quite difficult for people as they're first coming into it. So if you do have questions, do ask them. If you've just had a go at it and you're not really hearing much of a change in your voice, then it sounds like there's a question you need to ask. You're unsure of something. So yeah, ask your questions. As you go through your whispered words, we then want to go into a phonation test, okay? So when we're whispering, we don't have that source, we don't have our proper sound coming through, we're not phonating, okay? Our vocal folds aren't open and closing, we're not phonating. As we bring them into some closure, so we have that vibration happening, that is phonation. So as we go, cheese, 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 I've brought in phonation, okay? Right now I'm phonating, right now I'm not phonating, yeah? Okay, so as you go through your drill, once you get to the size that you're trying to target, we then bring in a phonation test where we try to keep that size the same as we go through an extended cheese or an extended pour, and we bring it into our voiced voice halfway through that. Okay? Cheese, 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 cheese. Cheese. Yeah? So I brought in the sound halfway through that cheese. I like the ease, but okay? And again, bring the sound in like halfway through during like all bit. All right? From there, you just go into some talking, okay? Because we brought our voice back in. We've kept us same size as we brought our voice in. So then we go into some talking to trying to maintain that size as we go through. And just like with the weight earlier, we go through the pitch, whichever, and then you go into some talking. This, we go through our drill into a phonation test, into some talking, okay? Being able to do the exercise and actually tangibly mark the before and after position of larynx. But how do you retain the benefit for more than a few seconds? Practice. Again, don't worry too much about the position of your larynx. I'm just explaining it so you have a more complete understanding. You should be worrying about the sound, okay? You want to be listening for your voice going from cheese, cheese, cheese to a cheese, 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 or a pa, 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 to a boo, boo, boo. You want to be listening for that sound change, okay? And you want to be maintaining that sound change as you go into your speech, okay? So there's the first point. Focus on the sound, not the positioning of your larynx. Secondly, how do you retain the benefit? Practice. Every time you notice, and this is for anything we practice, so for weight, for size, whatever it is we're doing, whenever you are practicing and you go through something, if you start losing that something, then re-drill, okay? Re-drill, continue what you were saying, okay? Every time you start to lose it, re-drill, continue what you're saying. In time, you'll start building some muscle memory and you'll get better at this. So totally normal that you can't retain it for more than a few seconds right now. Just keep practicing and you'll build that up until eventually you have like established control over this. All right. Thank you. No worries. No worries. Okay. So some common problems with this. Also from earlier. Boo. I did answer that, didn't I? You remember in a previous workshop it was only something you move with exercises. Yes, you only move the larynx with the exercise. Were you doing an exercise for that, or do you get to self-controlled larynx movement? Again, it's not okay. Try to depart the idea of you trying to move the larynx. The larynx moves as a consequence of you changing the sound. So you're controlling things at the level of sound, not at the level of your body. All right? This applies to literally everything you do with your body. You like if you move up your pitch, as I move around my pitch, I'm thinking about the sound, and you probably do too. You're not thinking about speeding up the movement of your vocal folds. Okay, that's how pitch is regulated. Even things as basic as like, as I take a drink from this, I'm not like thinking about tensing my bicep and then I guess relaxing it a bit to meet the bottle, and then manipulating my wrist muscles and my hand muscles to manipulate the tendons of my fingers to eventually release that clasp. I don't do any of those things. I just do the thing. Yeah? Pick up bottle, open bottle, drink from bottle, swallow. That's the level that you engage with your body. All right? So it should be the exact same level that you're engaging with your voice. Make sound change, not intricate manipulations of your anatomy. Okay? Your body just doesn't work like that. You don't control these micro movements of your body. You literally have like a different area of the brain that does that. And that's dealt with on a subconscious level. So yeah, don't focus on controlling your larynx. Focus on controlling the sound. All right? And to like complete the answer to your question, for you guys, just focus on using the exercise. As you get really good at it, you'll eventually just have enough control that you don't need the exercise. But don't try to skip ahead to that, okay? Just stick with the exercise. Use the exercise until you already know you're completely independent of it. Don't be like, oh, am I ready to drop the exercise? If you're asking that question, you're not ready to drop the exercise, okay? Stick with it, Keep that exercise. It's there for a reason. Always, always, always use the exercise. Okay? And after you've done this a billion times, then you can try not using the exercise to change your size. Because the exercise means that you're going to be doing it correctly and you're going to be setting things where you want. Whereas if you try to go solo without the exercise to help you, then you don't know that you're setting things where you want them to be, and you don't know if other things that are coming in are the correct thing because you're not as familiarized with it yet. So when we try to go outside of the exercise, we have a higher chance of other things coming in without us noticing them. Yeah. Okay, so some common problems that people experience doing this. The big one is conflating resonance or size or larynx height with pitch. Okay, that's a big one. Remember, when we're doing the whispers, pitch isn't, or our true vocal folds aren't creating pitch because they're staying open. So that's not coming into play. All right, meaning the change that we're creating is happening independently of pitch. Okay, it's beyond where we have that source. Okay, in that power source filter model. Pitch sounds like this. Size sounds like this. Hopefully you can hear in that. My pitch didn't even change. It stayed completely monotonous. Totally monotonous sound. Okay? That's what I'm looking for. No change in pitch as you go through this, or at least minimal change in pitch. Okay? Because again, this is a completely separate thing from pitch. They have nothing to do with one another. They're just easy to confuse because you don't tend to play with our size very often in day-to-day life, so we're just not as used to this sound change. So we just kind of assume it's pitch, but it just isn't. It's a completely separate thing. It's the size of your vocal tract, specifically the size of your larynx. The other common problem I see is tension. This usually comes with people trying to physically control things. They'll be looking to feel something in their body as they try to control it. And as I said right at the beginning of this, we don't actually feel this changes very much. Like I can, if I go to my original unmodified voice and then I move it over to here, I can just about notice a slight change in sensation if I really focus on it. Okay, you go a little bit more if you are specifically lowering your larynx. You feel that a little bit more. But again, these aren't super strong, like physical feelings that you'll be getting, not strong sensations. Okay, Sky Makes Music. Hi in YouTube chat. Hey. Yeah, so you're just not going to feel this super much. So tension usually comes in when people try to feel something because you're not feeling this much, so something else comes in to tense up so you get some sensation. And it's not meant to be there. This is a super common problem. Even I had this when I was very first learning. I had tension at the back of my neck, which is completely unrelated. It's not even a vocal muscle. It's like the one that allows me to move my head around. People have all sorts of things. I've seen people's tongues tensing up, their jaws tensing up, just different areas of the jaws tensing up. Some people go raspy and have their false vocal folds tensing up. People do all sorts of crazy stuff when trying to make size changes. And again, usually this comes with people trying to physically control their body. So if you are experiencing tension, then we need to get rid of it. How do we do that? Kind of depends on exactly what it is that's happening. You do experience a little bit of tension. Okay, Sky Makes Music, this is exactly relevant to you then. Let us know what tension you experience and I'll tell you exactly how to target that one. But common things are going to be generally whatever the muscle that is being activated that shouldn't be activated, the one that's tensing up, try to occupy it with something else. Just call you Sky. That's a lot easier. Thank you, Sky. Yeah, try to occupy that muscle with a different job. Okay, so when I was learning to remove my tension from my neck, I would just gently roll my neck. And then I would go through my cheese. And then I would try to maintain this as I go through some talking, keeping my neck moving so that it couldn't tense up. Okay, Tension is mostly in the front of the neck and like around the larynx. That would depend on exactly where you're talking, but we could try rolling around here, rolling around the front. Again, depending on the movements of your neck, if you're like if you're really tucking your chin in, then you might struggle a little bit to raise your larynx because you're kind of squishing everything down. But we can have a little bit of movement there if we're talking about the neck muscles there. I'd be curious about the experience that you're feeling in terms of tension around your larynx, because you might be feeling it a little bit higher up. If you're getting kind of a sound more like this, then we're having some raspiness coming in. I sometimes hear people trying to take the whisper into the voice. The whisper's only there to set us up. So some people go like, cheese, instead of a cheese, okay? So I don't want this kind of a sound coming in where we're trying to bring that whisper into the voice. The whisper is just there to set us up, then we completely discard it to go into proper phonation, all right? And I will not stop tapping my mic because it is right there in front of me and I will continually knock it. Closer to the clavicles. That's some anatomy terms. Clavicles are like higher up, right? Remind me exactly where the clavicles are. And it's not something I go into often. What else? Oh yeah, tongue tension. Stick your tongue out. Okay. Clavicles. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Clavicles are collarbones. Wait, down here. Close to the clavicles. Okay, that's far away from your larynx. That's a lot lower down. Are you talking around here, Sky? Sorry, I should look directly into the camera. Are you talking around here? I could kind of imagine you tensing around here. Oh, I know exactly what you're doing. Yeah. Are you feeling it like all across here? Yeah? Yeah, I bet you're feeling it all across here. Okay, so if I look to, yeah, okay. So if you just try to, when we're doing rolling the neck around, do it gently, okay? Yeah, right there. Yeah. I've just played around with it and I found it exactly there. So very gently, try to roll your neck around as you go through the drill, okay? And always, when we're rolling our necks, be careful, obviously. Do it gently, do it slowly. I don't want you hurting yourselves. But just very gently as you're going through, okay? I imagine on the downs, you could even just gently swing it around like this. Don't go like super tucked in because that's going to make it harder for you to do the drill. But you can just gently move things around. So that muscle has to do something else, has to relax at some point during that something else, okay? That'll help you to remove it. You have a habit of cracking your neck? Yeah, so do I. Hopefully that came from the mic. From what I googled, it doesn't really matter. It's just releasing some air pressure. All my bones crack. But yeah, so yeah, muscle tightness, muscle tension. Try to occupy it with a different task. Okay, try to have that area moving around. If it's your tongue, pull out. If it's your jaw, move your jaw around. If it's your whatever this muscle is specifically called, then roll your neck around the front gently. Again, being very gentle. If it is something where you can't figure out how to get it moving, one, you can ask me. But two, if you're really unsure, try just giving it a gentle massage, okay? Now, anything around your neck and throat, you must be gentle, okay? I don't want you pushing in on your throat, but we can be very, very gentle. And as we gently massage, we can try to relax that muscle, okay? As we go through the drill. As we massage things as well, that can help us to have a bit more conscious focus on the muscle to help us consciously try to relax it as we go through. Lastly, if none of that's working for you to release tension, then we can try just gaining some control of it. So try increasing that tension and then try removing that tension and increasing and removing and increasing and removing back and forth to gain that control, all right? As you develop that control, bring that into the drill, okay? Go through the drill, increase tension, remove tension, increase tension, remove tension without the size changing so that you can start to dissociate these two factors, okay? That way you start experiencing sighs with that tension not there, to try and move through it. That can be a bit of a harder one and takes longer, frankly. But if you're really struggling, by all means, go for it. If this is a tension that causes you some discomfort, then be very, very careful and very sparse in your practice of controlling that thing. Okay? So like if you're having something with raspiness, where you're kind of having your voice going like this, excuse me, I want you being like very cautious in your practice of that. If in doubt, come to me for some information. You have a whole ass Discord here, lots of channels where you can ask me questions. There's lots of ways you can do so for free. So please always ask that question if in doubt. Cool. Oh, you're kind of new to voice training, Sky? So if you're new, Sky, you might need to rewind to some of the earlier bits or rewatch the VOD later. If you're trying to feminize, well, everybody starts on softies. Didn't mention this during the softie section. Everybody starts off on softies, and I generally recommend people to stick with that for a couple of weeks. Okay? Stay on there for your first couple of weeks. Then after that, move on to your weight stuff if you're feminizing. Move on to your size stuff if you're masculizing. Then, once each of you have gotten really good at those, you swap it round. Okay? Masculizers start doing weight, feminizers start doing size, right? Until you've mastered those before moving on. Yeah. And then you're both caught up with one another. You like 2 months in, Sky? Okay, no worries. Well, make sure you got that weight stuff. And then, yeah. Cool. And then once you both... what was happening with my voice there? Once you've both mastered those 2 variables, we move into fullness, okay? Now, fullness, I don't want you going super crazy on this and worry about, which quadrant is my voice in? Fullness should be used as a diagnostic for if your voice sounds off, okay? So fullness is the concept that most voices in most countries will sound more normal if the weight and size are in balance with one another, okay? There is to some extent a cultural thing going on here, and what sounds normal might not be exactly where the 2 are in line, but it will generally be within that kind of bracket, I suppose. As we move outside of that, the further we go, the more we find that our voices start sounding more cartoonish. So fullness, if you're sounding cartoonish in your voice, fullness is what's going to be something you need to look at, okay? To really demonstrate this, if I was to go for, I've lightened my weight nicely, but I haven't managed to get enough of a smaller size, then I could start ending up with a voice more like this, because I have that large size. I have that lighter weight, but I still have that smaller size, okay? So I'll be needing to change my size to become a bit smaller. Oh yeah, that is my Discord notification. Sorry, I should have turned those off ages ago. I entirely meant to and totally forgot. Yep. Do not disturb. Yep. Okay. There you go. No more Discord pings. Sorry. Yeah. So we would generally describe this as a hollower sound. It sounds kind of cartoonish. A lot of cartoon larger creatures will have this. So like a cartoon bear might have this. Think of like Yogi Bear. I'm smaller than the average bear. Or Patrick kind of has this kind of a voice. No, this is Patrick. Hollower voices generally used for cartoon characters, for larger cartoon characters. At the other side, if we had a small vocal tract size, but we had a heavier weight, okay, then we end up with a sound more like this, okay? So I have that I have that smaller sound, but I have all that buzziness within it, okay? We could think of this as like a cartoon gnome can kind of sound like this sometimes. It can kind of be a nerdy voice sometimes. What else could we be thinking of? Cartoon elves sometimes have these sorts of voices. Yeah, there's all kinds of voices we have in this cartoon category that are going to be in that overfull section. So again, when we're sounding cartoonish, we have an issue where one of our things, either size or weight, are out of balance with one another. And you'll have to review which one is it we need to change. Are we too hollow? Are we too overfull? And which direction are we moving? Okay. And to go over Rugwain's thing there, so softies, then weight masculizers, size feminizers, and then swap around for size masculizers, weight feminizers. Yeah, as Eddie says, all the way around. So if you're masculizing your voice, start with size. If you're feminizing your voice, start with weight. Cool. Reasoning for that, by the way, there's a couple of reasons for that. Big one is this fullness thing, okay? Your voice sounds more normal. It's going to be more familiar to you when you're hearing a voice where the size and the weight are roughly in balance with one another. Again, they don't need to be like a perfect through line, but if they're sounding cartoonish, then you need to be closer to that through line. So when we're voice training, we're going to start off with the easier thing, okay? We're going to start off because we're going to be moving to somewhere unfamiliar to us, so we'll go for something easier first, all right? Then we're going to be moving to our more familiar space, okay, with the harder thing. So we have something harder with easy, and we have something easy with a hard, all right? Also, for the masculizers, you can kind of find that if you try to increase your buzziness without already having a descending your larynx, it can be a little bit trickier because you don't quite have as much space. Obviously, we created space by having our larynx lowered, which allows it to expand a little bit as well. That just frees up some extra space for us to be changing our weight around and playing with that variable. So again, that hollower space, that larger space, is an easier place for us to start playing with weight, just a larger space. And again, both of our roots there have us playing with our weight while we're in a larger space. Yeah. Okie dokie. Any questions on fullness? It's a reasonably simple concept. I don't usually get many questions, but... Okie dokie, no questions. We are blasting through it today. Probably because we have a quarter of our Discords joining us. So, we'll go through that real quick. Again, you've done your softies, you've done your weight, you've done your size stuff, and we've brought all of that together and had it roughly in balance with one another. Okay, you go through all of those things. Okay, so I've changed my weight and I've changed my size. I now have a changed voice, or I've changed my weight and I've changed my size. I now have a changed voice. All right, these are going to be your two core things for changing the gender presentation of your voice. Well, what about pitch, you might be asking? We'll go over that in a second. So the next thing to do, last thing to do, is you have a femme voice, you have a masc voice. All about making it your own, okay? There is not the femme voice, there is not the masc voice, there's like a whole bunch of them, or the androgynous voice. So once we've reached the gendering voice that we want, time to play around with it. So there's a whole bunch of other things that go into your voice that that don't affect the gendering. You'll notice I have pitch in this list. I suppose we'll go over that first. The reasoning I have pitch in this list is because people just don't tend to associate pitch with gender in a particularly strong way. I can demonstrate this like super explicitly for you if I was to go over to my masculine voice without actually changing my pitch at all and literally continuing my pitch pattern that I was already just on. I'm going from masculine to feminine to masculine to feminine. There, I'm going too fast and I'm tripping over my words. But you can hear in my voice the pitch isn't changing as I then go over to this voice over here. It's not sounding more like, presumably this sounds pretty masculine to all of you. Presumably this sounds pretty feminine to all of you. Pitch just doesn't have a huge gendered component to it. It's like I don't know, like 5% or 1% or something like that. The reasoning for this, I find, or at least my, what's the word? My hypothesis for why we don't have a super great, like pitch anchoring on this is because size is a pretty static variable. You have your size and you don't really change it as you speak. Your weight is a pretty static variable. You don't hear people going over to here and over back to here again as part of their normal speech patterns. Pitch, however, you can hear in my voice, it's moving all over the place, okay? I have a huge amount of movement in my pitch as I'm talking. It's very, very dynamic. So my guess on this is, even though the larynx does lengthen, which would change the pitch, we don't really tie pitch super strongly to gender, probably because pitch is always moving so much, whereas we already have those completely static things that we can anchor onto much more clearly when we are doing our normal human pattern recognition stuff. You will also find that because again, we talked about the link between pitch and weight earlier, you'll find that as you lighten your weight, the base of your pitch floor, will raise up. So you can't go to as low pitches as you could before, while also maintaining your voice. Like your voice would just cut out. So there's that element to it as well, if we're talking the lowest of pitches. But usually people aren't talking the bottom of their pitch range. So it doesn't become a relevant factor for most people. Do I know how to make the voice pitch dynamic? Most people will ordinarily speak with a dynamic pitch pattern. If that's something that you as an individual struggle with, there's a variety of ways that you can play around with that. You can try... I often encourage people to read fairy tales and imagine that they're reading those fairy tales to like an audience of like, I don't know, kindergartners or nursery kids, the 3-4, that kind of age, okay? And when you're doing that, you're going to start speaking like this. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was this wondrous voice unicorn, and she did all kinds of crazy things with her voice. And you can hear in my voice, I'm having all of these pitch movements as I'm very expressive in my voice, because I need to keep all of those kiddos really entertained and really enticed into the story. So as you go through that little role play, that will encourage you to have a whole bunch of movement in your pitch. And you can then bring that into your speech. You can also just practice just literally moving your pitch around. Imagine your finger just going up and down, or literally just have your finger going up and down. As you're talking, kind of figure out the pace that it would normally be at to follow the movement of your voice, and just follow it. So my pitch is going up and then it's going down in my normal speech pattern, and you'll have to play around with the speed to match up with where you would normally be moving, but you can use that to bring some extra movement in. I would doubt that anyone is speaking perfectly monotonous where their voice is like this all the time. Even I accidentally had a bit of movement there. I doubt any of you are speaking like this where your pitch is completely monotonous and you never have any pitch change at all. You just sound like this all the time. Most people are going to have some pitch movement happening. So if you're having just a really small amount, just try to increase it. And that can help you. Yeah. Adi, you would say that it intersects with gender in the sense that it contributes to age presentation. Well, age presentation is partially going to be the other things as well. So like if you were to feminize and then keep going to like extreme levels on that, remember what we're changing is, or what we're emulating is a change to, we're emulating a level of testosterone exposure. If you emulated, like kept going in that direction in terms of feminizing, you'd emulate no testosterone exposure, prepubescent, you'd have a childlike voice. So I'd still say that those other things are going to be the main things for a childlike voice. But to some extent, yeah, pitch is going to definitely be more of a factor as we go into age changing. But I would say that's more going to be a thing as we go to younger, not necessarily a thing as we age, although that will change from society to society. Like some people are going to culturally have a thing of presenting age through pitch. Obviously, cultural things add a layer of complication for that. But that's going to vary. Like I've certainly come across many older people with higher pitches, and that being pretty typical. Yeah, I've just lost my YouTube chat. Just reading through messages. Yeah, in terms of that, oh, sorry about that. Can be fairly relevant to transmastic folks because pitch and loudness interactions mean that sufficient weight can be hard at higher pitches without being yelly. Yeah, so in terms of higher pitches for transmasc people, remember to still allow, first of all, remember to still allow M2 to come in when M2 wants to come in. Obviously, M2 is inherently going to be sounding lighter. That's okay. It's M2. It's like every mask voice. If we go for like Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse kind of sounds like this. Obviously, there's none of that buzziness in his voice. But he still sounds like a dude. Mickey Mouse, everybody sounds as a pretty masculine voice. Because that M2, we're expecting it to have that lighter weight. Because it's M2, it's a totally different way of talking. Like literally your vocal folds are vibrating a different way. That's what the M represents. Yeah, so yeah, allow yourself to get to M2 when you need to. And in terms of just being in M1, to some extent, you can allow yourself to get to some extent, you can allow yourself to get a bit louder at the higher pitches. Just don't go crazy with it. Generally, you should be trying to avoid a conflation between loudness and heavy weight. Because again, as I demonstrated earlier, you can have a heavier weight that isn't super loud, and you can have a lighter weight that is super loud. Like I'd be like, hey over here, hey. Like I have that lighter weight while being quite loud, and my neighbors probably hate me when I do that. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of information on pitch. Some other things that we can do with our voice is fry is a really popular. By the way, this list is not like the complete list. There is an infinite amount of things you could be doing with your voice that aren't gender related. These are just the ones that I get asked about most. These are pretty popular ones. So fry kind of sounds like this. If you want to introduce some fry into your voice, then by all means introduce some fry into your voice. We'd generally be thinking of voices like Raven from Teen Titan. She basically just exists in fry all the time. So if you want to have some fry in your voice, then by all means do so. Most people are going to be just using some fry some of the time. If you listen carefully for the rest of this workshop, you'll notice I never do it after doing the fry drill, or after presenting fry, but I did do it about just now. But as I go into my normal speaking more, you'll hear that my fry is going to be coming in every so often. And yeah, I generally do it on my downward inflections. If you go to look at some of the like really long workshops that we've done in the past, then you'll find that as I get more tired, I also have more fry in my voice. And yeah, some people like to have some fry, some people don't. If you like it, add it in. If you don't like it, get rid of it. You have a femboy kind of voice, not breathy, and really spiky, and also kind of low. Feminizing is kind of hard. Depends on what you mean by spiky to give you any advice on that. We could be meaning fry, something like this. That would be my go-to for spiky. But I need some more descriptions of what you mean by spiky. Another popular one, especially with the feminizers, is breathiness. So again, breathiness kind of sounds like this, where I'm literally just breathing out as I talk. Obviously, this is a huge amount of it, and nobody would typically be. I mean, you can use it that amount if you want to, but most people just use it more like this, where you have a little bit of breathiness in your voice. And yeah, some people like that, some people don't. If you like it, add it in. If you don't like it, get rid of it. Again, entirely up to you. Some people like the combination of a lower pitch plus some breathiness. So by all means, have a play with that if you'd like to. Twang is a bit of a weird one. Twang kind of sounds like this. So what's happening here is, well, we don't need to go into the anatomy of it necessarily. The science is still a little bit out on what twang is exactly. It's specifically not nasality, which some people get confused with. It's something to do with your areoproglottic folds, we're pretty sure. But yeah, twang has this kind of a sound to it, where it's got this twangy kind of a feel to it. It'll project your voice ever so slightly more, and it kind of sounds a little bit brighter, but also in a brassier kind of a way. So it's not exactly the same sound change that we're desiring. We have this instead, it's an onomatopoeia thing. It sounds twangy. So if you want that in your voice, you can have that in your voice. Obviously, again, I'm doing it to a huge degree there, but if I was to scale it down a bit, again, this is me doing a whole bunch of twanginess, and then if I'd start removing that a little bit, and I just have a little bit in my voice as I'm going through my talking. Obviously, I don't tend to use twang in my voice, so it's not sounding as natural in my voice. But if we were to think of voices like Kirsten Stewart, she uses a lot of twang in her voice. She's in, I say this every week, and then I forget what she's in every week. Mabel from Gravity Falls. She's that voice actress, or she's done a bunch of comedy things you might have seen her in. Two Broke Girls, apparently she's in. I think I got the name of that right. Yeah, she has some twang in her voice, and if you like that, then go for it, add it in. To practice twang, because obviously it's a bit of a weirder sound that you're not necessarily going to be used to, we can practice a huge amount of it by emulating like a cartoon baby crying, okay? Like be really, really silly with it, really obnoxious with it, okay? Okay, that baby crying sound, that's going to be a whole bunch of twang, all right? We could also think of like a witch cackle, like a that's going to have a whole bunch of twang to it. So play around with those sounds and you'll find twang. I find the baby one is the easiest one for people, but have a little play with it. Lastly, accent stuff. Your accent is something you can change if you want to, or retain if you want to. None of what we've been going through so far should cause an issue with your accent. We do find usually the feminizers, there's a big thing of feminizers moving towards a kind of Cali girl voice. In my opinion, this is because of some kind of issues in the voice teaching world, where people promote elements of an American voice as feminine. And it's like, well, not if you don't live in America. So just be aware that, like, if your accent is changing, it doesn't have to be. None of what we've been doing so far should cause an accent change. But if you want your accent to change, then change your accent. You can totally do that. It's a harder process, but you can totally do that. There is kind of a thing of accents having this slight gender divide, where there's like a masc version and a femme version. In some cultures, this is going to be more significant. In others, it'll be less significant. So, for example, Russia, you have like an entire different set of words that you'll use if you are presenting masc versus if you're presenting femme. Like, you speak differently, you use different words. I believe the same thing is the case in Japan, and you typically have more of a like gendering sound in terms of the accent in Japanese. There's a little bit of it a significant amount of it in West Coast America, and to some extent that's spread to the rest of America. Hence, you have that like concept of Cali girl. But as much as we have those examples of ones where it is a more relevant thing, also there's lots of countries where it's not as relevant a thing. So here in the UK, we don't really have that as much, probably because we have so many accents. In other areas of Europe, I think it was Norway someone was telling me about. Apparently Norwegian people tend to speak very monotonously, and so there's just not that space for much of an accent gender divide. So generally, I would say in terms of accent stuff, if you are concerned about that gender divide, one, it's usually a very small thing. But two, just listen to masculine and feminine speakers around you. And if you're finding that you notice a significant difference, there is like a pattern between fem speakers versus mas speakers in terms of their accents, then try to emulate what you're seeing as a change. But again, this is usually a very small thing, and it's specific cultures that have this as a larger thing. You probably already know if it's a thing in your culture, but again, if in doubt, just have a little listen, look out for it. And you'll always find that this is going to be a minor thing, and you can prove it's a minor thing, because if you go to a culture that you're not familiar with, if you hear an accent for the first time, you can still gender it, because it's just not a super huge variable, which is why I don't go over it specifically in this workshop. This is an area where I do differ from some other teachers. You will find teachers having the opposite opinion on this. My presentation to them would be, what are the specific things that you're saying are fundamentally fem, and like, what about these other countries that don't have that as a thing? So yeah, just watch out for that. And if in doubt, just listen to the voices around you, and you'll be able to pick up on that sort of stuff. This would always be something you do right at the end anyway, so you're already going to have a more developed ear for this sort of stuff. Some languages like German or Arabic have a hierarchy, so you can shoot for a higher version of a language if you're worried about uncontrolled accent changes. I don't know about that in depth, Regwain, but I'll take your word for it. I'm not as much of a linguistics person, and certainly not German or Arabic. So maybe, I don't know. You're stuck with a Quebec accent. It's not really hard to gender, but switching to another language is something. Yeah, in terms of as you're practicing stuff, you will find that as you change something about the way you practice, it'll throw you off. So for example, if you're bilingual and you're always practicing in the same language, you'll find if you switch to the other language, you'll struggle. This is a thing where your brain is trying to be efficient in its learning, and it's drawing all these little patterns, okay? So one of those patterns is, when we're in this language, when we're in voice training mode, when we're in front of a computer maybe, or when we're recording our voice, or these things, we bring out the connections with voice training. And then when we change one of those variables, we don't have all those connections. Your brain's like, we're not in voice training mode right now. We're not doing voice training things. It doesn't bring all that to the forefront. It's just your brain trying to learn efficiently, which can kind of trip us up sometimes in this. You'll also find that, like, as you try to habituate your voice and make it a full-time thing, that it feels weird, and suddenly you don't know how to use your voice at first. If you just push through, eventually you'll become more comfortable with it, and all of those connections will start coming back again as your brain realizes, this isn't this environment thing, this is just a talking thing. Yeah, everybody goes through that awkward phase, don't worry about it. Just push through, you'll get there. Yeah, polyglot, just practice in a variety of languages, and eventually it'll all come through. Because eventually your brain will dissociate it from being a particular language thing and it just being a voice thing. Apparently languages have places of articulation, or where they are in the mouth, which you're thinking might affect the place of articulation for resonance control. So remember what we were saying earlier. In terms of our resonance control, our size, whatever, we're talking the larynx, okay? 2 reasons why we're talking the larynx. 1, that was the thing that testosterone changed, okay? So that's the thing we're going to try to move back again through behavior. So we're focusing on this area instead of the oral space, because the second reason, just as you say, as we talk, as we articulate, we're going to be changing that resonance all the time. That's how we're forming words, all right? We're filtering the sound into words, into phrases, into whatever. That's all through manipulating our oral resonator. All right? So I don't want you to have to mess with that process. I don't want your words to have to change. I want you sticking with larynx control. Okay? Specifically, the sound change that happens as a result of big cheese, little cheese. That's why we use big cheese, little cheese instead of big dog, little dog, or little paw, big paw. We use that word to help us maintain a stable oral space, all right? Because that's not the thing we're trying to change. We're going earlier in that process, the beginning of a filter, before we're changing and forming words, all right? So we shouldn't have any issues of places of articulation with regards to different languages because we've already created the change before that's happened, which is why none of this should impact your accent, because all of these changes happen before your accent has even begun to be produced. Okay? Does that make sense? And again, to wrap up on this point, the Cali girl accent is not inherently a more feminine accent compared to other feminine accents. There are women that do not live in California. Who knew? So you don't have to sound Cali girl. Is there a guy version of Cali girl? I've never heard of anything. I guess Big Russian Man. That's about the best I could think of. Cali guy? I've never heard of anybody saying Cali guy. No, like an accent that we all just kind of, for some reason, think of as the masculine accent, like we do for Cali girl. Surfer dude, yeah, maybe. Yeah, surfer dude has got like that bro thing going on. It's kind of like a masculine vibe. You don't have like surfer chick or anything in terms of a voice. Yeah, bro. Totally radical. Cowboy, I guess. Yeah. All right, so we'll wait for that a second. All right, so this wraps up my lecture portion. Some special thank yous. This is bizarre because we've only got Trans Network here. But these workshops are brought to you by the Ko-fi supporters, the people that bring financial support to Trans Network. I hugely appreciate the people that support her at Ko-fi because they bring all the monetization and not all the monetization, but they bring the investment opportunities. The reason that I can present this to you guys every week, the reason why we have a makeup consultant in here, makeup and beauty consultant in Trans Network. If any of you people have come across Beans in the server, Beans is our makeup artist whom I hired using the money that came from the Ko-fi people. And so they do a workshop every month, which is fully funded by Ko-fi. That's how they get paid. And then all the other things we bring here for weekly workshops, all of this sort of stuff happens because of the people that support over at Ko-fi. So huge thank you to those people. Firstly, at our tier 1, we have Misty, Mihuggy, Himori, and Grave Robbed Maria. Huge thank you to those people. At tier 2, we have Landmisa, Ona, and Leah. Amazing, huge thank you to those people. And then our absolute goats, our tier 3 supporters, Beth and Ria. Huge thank you to those people. Ria's in chat right now. Yo, Ria, you need your super special role as a tier 3 supporter. Let's get you your super special role right about now. Can I do that from within? I can. Add role. Top community contributor. Golden, baby. Hells yeah. You see a gold name like that? That's how you know somebody's in chat right now that is a big supporter. So huge thank you to Ria. Binny's in chat right now. Everybody give a little clap to Ria. Yeah, huge thank you to everybody on this list because they're why I can bring these workshops to you guys every single week. And it's all totally free. And they're why we can do the public lessons totally free. They're why prices get to be so low. Yeah, huge thank you to people that support over Ko-fi because we couldn't do this without you. So huge thank you. Lastly, special thanks to Crammed Voice Lessons over at Linguistics. Charles is his name. He saw what I was doing and invited me to a teacher training cohort. So after having been doing this for like a few months at that point, for 5 months maybe, I don't remember dates or whatever. After an amount of time of having been presenting workshops, and over time I was giving just free private lessons as I was developing experience as a teacher. Charles was like, "Hey, do you want to just be trained completely for free?" And I was like, "Hell's yeah, I do." And that's exactly what he did. Charles gave me and a cohort of others a full free training course to help us in our teaching journeys. So part of why we're able to bring high quality stuff is because straight up free teacher training. So huge thank you to Charles. There's some cool stuff over in Linguistics, which you might want to check out. There's a link right over there. There are also, being as we only have Trans Network here today, if you check out the endorsed servers, we have a whole bunch of endorsed servers in there, and Linguistics is one of those servers. So you can check them out if that is something that would be useful for you. Excuse me. Twice a week, they have a Trans Voice Practice Lounge, which again, you might find as a useful thing. So check that out. You might also notice we have Addy with us today. Thank you for joining us, Addy. Addy's server is actually in that endorsed list as well. So if you want to check out Addy's server, then check that out. Cool. Okie dokie. That wraps up all of our special thank yous. So let's go to the next section of our workshop today. Boo, 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 boo. If I can find it in OBS. There we go. Yo. The big screen. Oh my gosh. Yo. You can check out my sick hair. Literally just dyed it hours ago. A little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit not quite looking right, but I don't know if that's a product or if that's just, it's probably just the camera. I think it's just the camera, to be honest. The camera's making it all look a bit weird. I look very weird in this camera right now. But oh well. Okay, so, yo. Any questions about anything we've gone over? Or just any questions about voice at all? And if anybody is looking for some one-on-one help with their voice, then speak next to go next. Literally just unmute and you get to go next. But before you do that, I'm going to answer Path the Shark's question. Early in the session, you showed how your voice sounded with different modifications, pitch, resonance, and size. Could you refresh on size? Is the little dog, big dog a resonance exercise? Is cheese another one for resonance, or is it for size? I see where you got muddled up. Your voice has qualities to it, similar to how yours did when you removed the size modifications, with resonance still active. You would like to practice it, but don't know the correct exercises. Okay, resonance and size are the same thing. So actually, if we go back over to the workshop briefly. So if I bring all the way back to here, there we go. Yes. Okay, I've titled this size / resonance / larynx height because they're all kind of the same thing. Essentially, larynx go up and down, right? There's larynx height. As larynx go down, size get bigger because that's literally creating more size, right? As larynx go up, size gets smaller because we're literally making a smaller space as we raise our larynx. As you do so, that means that the resonator of the larynx is changing. I have just knocked out a bit of hair. Hang on, I need to fix that, otherwise I'm going to have that as just sitting there. Okay, I will just not bother with the haircut for now. Yeah, so you have the resonator of your larynx changing. So the sound, as it bounces around your larynx, is resonating through your larynx, changes sound, okay? So resonance, we could describe that as the change of size of larynx height. They're all the same thing. We're just looking at it from different lenses. So if we're saying larynx height, we're looking at it from the lens of what are you physically doing. If we're saying size, or what change is happening, we're having a change in size. Resonance, how is the sound bouncing around? What is happening? It's all the same thing, just looking at it from different lenses. Okay? Does that make sense? So all of those things are the same thing. You got a leave sign? No worries. Thank you for coming. Oh, and I'm glad it helped. Yeah, it makes sense? Cool. I see you typing. I'll wait for you to type. Sky, you gotta go? No worries. Well, thank you for coming. Also, apologies to everybody that the workshop was a bit more hectic today. Obviously, we started later and had a whole bunch of things there. And I probably rushed through things today a little bit and been a little bit more disorganized than I normally would be. Because I'm a little bit thrown off by having a completely different setup today. So I'm slightly off my game. But we'll be back to normality next time. Freaking Discord updates. Great considering Discord randomly upending the whole thing. Yeah. I appreciate it. And this is why we have this section, so you can always ask anything you need to ask. Yes, but you wonder what the difference is that you heard when you did the demo. So if I was to go for a larger size, I would end up somewhere over here. So this is me doing a larger size or a darker resonance or a lowered larynx, okay? This is me having a smaller size or a smaller larynx or a higher larynx, a brighter resonance. Any of that being a thing there? Again, we have that. You could be thinking of like, you could be muddling up different parts of your vocal tract. So if I was to have like if I lower my larynx and then also have a larger oral size, which will then make me yawn. I could lower my larynx and then also have a larger size in terms of my oral size. So we've got our oral size, we've got our laryngeal size there. Could be something to do with that. Maybe have an oral size thing going on. Or are you muddling up a pitch thing? Could be a pitch thing that you're thinking of. Any of that ring any bells, I suppose? Or if you think of ways you could describe the sound, that might help me to tell you what it was you were hearing. Yeah, I need some clues. As to what it was that you were muddling up. So you can have a high larynx, but it will not have the feminine ringing. Oh, do you mean something like this? So do you mean this sort of a sound coming in? This is a change in your weight, okay? So we have a heavier voice while having a smaller size or a brighter resonance, okay? So if you're thinking of this sound right now, then this is a issue with your weight, okay? So it'd be this slide over here. Is this what you're thinking of? A heavier weight versus a lighter weight? You think it's this? Okay. So to go through your original question, so is it this you wanted me to refresh on? The weight stuff. So again, we have that pitch hill. So if we're starting off with like a lower pitch and a heavier weight, we use the increase of pitch. We use the increase of pitch to lighten our weight. And when we bring the pitch back down again, so our end result is a weight change because we've removed all of the pitch change we just had. And then I have this lighter weight with that ordinary speaking pitch. Yeah? So you just go through your pitch hill. That makes sense? Because we have that pitch weight connection. Yeah? I'm trying to redo a button on my top that I undid earlier for the cufflink or whatever. It's not freaking doing it with one hand. Ugh. Undone cuffs. Whatever. Yeah, okay, so that's what you need to go over there. Is it good? Okay, good. Cool. Okie dokie. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Or if anybody wants some one-on-one help with their voice, speak next. You get to go next. Go right ahead. Speak next to go next is our ruling on this. And if we have multiple people at the same time, then I'll figure it out, don't worry. Or we have nobody wanting some one-on-one help, which is totally fine. Do lip trolls get easier with time, or are you hallucinating? As in they got easier with time, Regwayne? Is that the hallucination here? Yes, yeah, they tend to. And that's why I have you set doing them for a couple of weeks. Partly it can just be a technique thing. Like if it's your lips that are messing up, if you're going like having issues like that, then it's just a technique issue with the lip trill itself. You're usually manipulating your lips in a weird way, and they need to just be relaxed. Or if it's the other thing can be phonation cutting in and out, where it's going like. We have that sound cutting in and out, and usually that's going to be an issue of not regulating our phonation properly, usually issues of pressure and stuff. That there is the main reason why I have you playing with the lip trills, as well as like learning to manipulate your pitch in a safer way, so we can then, when we move on to other stuff, we have one, just better vocal hygiene in general, and two, a better vocal technique in terms of moving stuff around in gentle manners, which is what those lip trills will encourage, or what softies in general encourage. So yeah, I would totally expect them to get easier as you get better at them. You're behind on schedule, so you've only been doing them regularly for a week. That's okay. You'll get through it. I should talk about practice a little bit. In terms of how I want you practicing, generally I want you following a rule of little and often, okay? So I don't want you like sitting down for hours to practice. That's trash, okay? If you're trying to figure out how to do something, then yeah, spend as long as you need figuring out how to do the thing. But in terms of practicing that thing that you've now learned, practices want to be 1 to 5 minutes, okay? Because the idea is we're trying to build muscle memory. That's what the practice part of it is. And muscle memory is built in that returning to the thing phase, all right? So 1 to 5 minutes, and then take a break and come back to it in an hour or two. If you're wanting to be like maximal with it. Generally, if you're going for like 3, 4, 5 plus practices a day, that's going to be really good, and every single day. And then having it only 1 to 5 minutes makes that not so burdensome. So the person who's doing like, I don't know, 5 minutes of practice 4 times a day is going to learn so much faster than the person that's doing an hour practice once a day, even though they're doing a third of the time, because they're doing that little and often, they're building that muscle memory faster, they're just being more efficient with their time. Yeah. And then as you practice, what I want you doing is you do a drill, you take the sound change that that drill provides into some talking. The talking is where we do the improvement, okay? Because every time your talking drops whatever it is that you were trying to do, you re-drill to bring yourself back there and continue talking. And then as it drops again, you re-drill, and as it drops again, you re-drill, and you keep doing that to build that muscle memory, okay? To build that consistency. Yeah, and that's why we have that little and often approach, because we want you losing that again as you then come back to it again, then keep repeating that to bring you consistency over time. Was the pitch ladder up and down part of pushing lip trills further, or did your memory make that part up? Pitch ladder, I don't have that term. We have the pitch, oh, I missed off a pitch siren in the softies, you might be thinking of that. So usually we have our pitch slowly expanding out as we go like where we're going further out, both high and low. until eventually we get to our maximum pitch range. Once we get to our maximum, I didn't do a full set of softies earlier. I should have done that. Once we get to our maximum pitch range, we then add on a little siren. And the same thing at the bottom. And we have those sirens at both ends to get that extra bit of flex, okay? That extra bit of stretching. So if that's what you're thinking of, then yeah, that's something you want to be having in. Yeah, you meant what I'm doing right now. Yeah, pitch sirens is what I call them because they sound like a siren, like a nino. Nino, nino, nino. Yeah, just it sounds like a siren, so I call them pitch sirens. Yeah. Yeah, have those at the end just to give you that last extra little bit of stretch. Can kind of help you with expanding your pitch range a little bit if that's something you're interested in. But generally it's just to get a full stretch. Hence we're doing it at both ends, regardless of whether we're masculizing or feminizing. That makes sense? Is Nina Nina the British siren onomatopoeia? Oh, Nina. Yeah. Sirens go Nina. Do you not say that in other languages? Nino, Nino, Nino. Ain't no way that you don't call that. What German has lalu, lalu, lalu? Oh, wait, no. Lalu, la, la, lalu, la, la. That's crazy. Do you have, like, different sirens over there? I have to look up German sirens. Any of the voice questions whatsoever? And if not, we'll finish up soon. Should be that. Yeah, I would be surprised if it that different. But I mean, maybe. It goes wee oo, wee oo, wee oo. Yeah, I could get that. You guys don't see Nino? That's like classic. Like if I just say Nino to somebody, they'll be like, oh yeah, a siren. I guess that's maybe a British thing. You don't know if you've heard that in the US? That's nuts. That's absolutely crazy to me. You guys don't say Nino. What the hell? Horrendous. This is why Americans aren't real people. True. True. Freaking not saying Nino. Alright, well on that bombshell, we'll leave off here. Thank you for coming, everybody. Again, sorry things were a bit more disorganized today. I was already running late because my hair needed a bunch of stuff doing to it because I was dyeing my hair again today. Don't want to go first. Does no one want a one-on-one? You might have to be first, Siblix. If you're wanting a one-on-one, I'll stick around to do it. If somebody else is wanting to go first, they absolutely get that opportunity. I'm afraid we do have a smaller audience today because I could only be in one server. Yeah. I'll give you the opportunity to make your decision now. I'm out of water. That sucks. You're considering it, but you're nervous. Ah, don't be nervous. You want some help with your voice. No one here gonna judge you.
Hello?
We'll wait to see what is being typed right now.
Can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you. Oh, what I'll do real quick, sorry. I'll put my headphones in so that you don't get an echo. Always forget to do that. Because we're only for one server right now, that's not going to actually affect anything. Okie dokie. All right. Hello, how can I help you?
Hi. So just wondering how my voice sounds at the moment and where it is on that
Hmm.
small light spectrum. So how small it is, how light it is, that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure. So, what's the goal? What are we aiming towards?
Don't really have a specific goal, just
Mhm.
more feminine in general.
Okay, okay. Why don't we go through the full drill so I can listen to your full drill? And before you do so, I'll need you to change some Discord settings because Discord does not like our drills. So you go into your user settings real quick. Go into your voice and video, and then you're looking for input sensitivity. Set that to manual and drag it all the way to the left. It should say minus 100 decibels. Then underneath that, you'll need to turn off your echo cancellation. And underneath that, noise suppression is set to none. Let me know if you need me to repeat any of that. How are we getting on there? Ooh, have we lost? Have we lost her? Nelicia, we can't hear anything from you right now. My guess is your input sensitivity. You've switched it to manual, but you still need to drag it all the way to the left. That's my guess is what's happening. It needs to be saying minus 100 decibels, specifically minus 100 decibels. So if you're 100 decibels, then that would explain why we can't hear you. In fact, I have a. Oh, there we go.
I've put input volume. Was that the wrong one?
Input
Oh,
sensitivity.
yeah.
It should be minus 100.
Minus 100. Yep.
Perfect,
And
perfect.
echo cancellation off.
Echo cancellation off, yep.
Was there one more?
Input sensitivity set to none. And the last thing I might need you specifically to do is if you set yourself to push to talk, because otherwise I'm going to get a mad echo unless you have some headphones. If you're on mobile, I don't know how push to talk works though. Okay, just to test that, try talking to us for a moment. Ooh, we have nothing. Okay.
I've ticked push to talk. I don't know how to activate it. Am I just pressing a button?
Yeah, it's usually spacebar by default. So when you want to talk, you hold spacebar, and then when you finish talking, you let go of spacebar. That make sense? Unless you're on mobile. I do not know how push to talk works on mobile. Are we managing?
Doesn't seem to be working.
Okay. Don't worry about it then. I'll just ignore the echo. Okay, so do you remember our big cheese little cheese exercise from earlier?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to go through that? I'll have a lesson.
Cheese, cheese, cheese.
Try to start nice and large.
Cheese.
Sorry, go for it again.
Cheese, 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 cheese.
So do you hear all of those cheeses in the whisper are sounding pretty much the exact same? Do you hear that?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking for us to change. Okay? I want that larger sound to start with, so we can start moving to something smaller. Okay? Really give me like a really big like. Larger.
Larger.
We'll try going.
We'll try going.
Okay. We'll try going another way.
We'll try going another way because you're struggling to get that larger sound.
To then move to a smaller sound.
All
right.
All right.
I want you to pant.
I want
like
you to pant
really big
like
dog.
you're a really big dog.
Like a
Doberman
or a
Doberman or a German Shepherd.
Okay.
Now
try panting
like
a
a
really small dog.
Like
a Chihuahua
like
or
a
a
Chihuahua or a
Pomeranian
Pomeranian or something like that.
Okay, that was a bit of sound change.
That was a bit of sound
change.
The big dog
and then for
the big dog and then for little dog.
Nice. Do you reckon you can go further in those extremes? An even bigger dog,
an even bigger dog, an even smaller dog.
Nice. Okay, now take that into our cheeses.
Okay.
Instead of doing a big dog,
do a big dog, do a big
Instead of doing a small dog,
do a big small cheese. Small cheese.
Cheese.
Okay.
Getting something back.
Make sure our cheeses,
by the way,
stay a very clear cheese. Not becoming like a cheese or like a cheese or anything like that. I want a very clear cheese all the way through. Okay. Go through once more.
Cheese.
Do you hear how it's slowly
becoming a chase there?
Go for it again. Listen to that. And now we didn't have much of a difference between the two. I suspect we have our issue. So it sounds like to get that sound change, you're moving towards changing the word. Those oral resonator space. Oral space. The oral resonators. So you're going for like a cheese, chase. Where we're having that size change through the oral space. I don't want that. So to try some other stuff, let's just see what happens if we change around our words a bit. So try big pot, little pot
instead of cheese.
Big pot.
Oh, sorry, just
pot. So like
started to get something back. You take it further. Okay. I heard it for a moment, and then you went back down again. So I'm looking for. Try to keep it at that smallest you can get it. That smallest sound. Did you hear that where you kind of went? You had that like smaller and then getting larger again. Go for it again. See if you can listen for that change happening. We're getting our things all a little bit. Okay. First of all, what are you experiencing during all of this? Like, listening to your body. What's happening? Are we feeling anything significant? Sorry, go on.
Slight tightness in the throat as I try to get it higher.
Tell me more about that. Like, give me a location. To start with.
Kind of under the jaw, maybe, on the sides.
Oh, like hairish?
Yep.
Okay, that gives us some really specific actually. So, if we're going just under the jaw, kind of like the next to the head or whatever, and kind of side-ish, that's leaning me towards the false focal folds. they're usually going to produce
raspy
kind of a sound.
raspy kind of sound if we bring it into
So
phonation.
to bring that
So
same
to bring
feeling
that same feeling
into our voice,
voice,
we'll have a sound kind
we'll
of
have
like
a sound
this.
kind of like this.
Okay, that's a
Okay?
raspy kind of a
That's
sound.
a raspy kind of a sound.
You might does it accompany with any kind of like slight burning sensation?
Slight burning sensation?
I guess kind of.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. That's leaning me towards false vocal
leaning me
folds.
towards false vocal folds.
If you were to try to
If you were to
bring
try
that
to
sound
bring
change
that sound
into
change
your voice,
into
what
your
would it sound
voice,
like?
what would it sound
Like
like?
just try giving it a go.
Like just try giving it a go.
Go gentle on it though.
Go gentle on it though.
So I'm trying to
Like try
raise
to
my
do it as
voice
you
and
talk.
Try to do it as you
feel
talk.
kind of the tightness going up.
Yeah, bring
Not
that.
sure if
So
that's
Yeah,
exactly
bring
right.
that.
So I'm asking you to
So I'm
do
asking
that
you to do that
tight thing
tight
as you're
thing
talking.
as you're talking.
Or was that you doing it? Sorry.
Or was that you doing it? Sorry.
Yeah, I was kind of doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Sorry.
Yeah,
The echo
okay,
froze me off.
Sorry, the
sometimes.
echo froze me off sometimes.
Okay. So I wasn't really hearing
So I
any
wasn't really
raspiness. So
hearing
maybe
any
I'm thinking of
raspiness.
something
So maybe I'm
else
thinking of
then.
something else then.
Excuse me. It sounded like you were
It
struggling
sounded
to get
like
the
you were
individual
struggling to get the
words
individual
out,
words out,
which leans me towards
a
movement muscle kind of thing.
movement muscle kind of thing.
If we
If we
sort of roll our necks
sort
around
of roll
kind of
our
like
necks
this,
around kind of
just
like
gently,
this, just gently,
or
or even
around the front somewhere.
around the front somewhere.
Does any of that feel like
Does
that
any
same
of that
muscle
feel
is
like that
moving?
same muscle is moving?
Could be, Addy. Yeah, could be.
Could be, Addy. Yeah, could be.
And kind of when my head goes back.
When your head goes back,
When your head goes back,
you feel it moving.
Yeah.
you feel it moving.
Okay, that leans me away.
That leads
then.
me away.
And
then.
just to
And
check
just to
another thing,
check another
if you
thing,
whisper
if you
really
whisper
loudly,
really
like
loudly,
really try to whisper
like
loudly,
really try to whisper loudly, like
this is me whispering,
really loudly.
do you feel that same thing
Do
coming
you
in?
feel that same thing
Or is
coming
it
in?
different?
Or is it different?
Whispering.
Like really loud whisper.
Like really loud whisper.
This is me whispering.
Yeah.
Don't really feel it as much.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not feeling.
So I'm not
false vocal
feeling
folds in that case.
false vocal folds in that case.
And you said as you were.
And you said
was
as you
it
were.
this way?
Was
You
it
said?
this way? You said.
Yeah.
Like neck up. Okay.
neck
Okay.
up. Okay.
Let's try.
Let's
just playing with
try.
that then.
Just playing with that.
Go
then.
through your size
Go
change.
through your size change.
As you very gently and be gentle with this because like
be
I
gentle
don't
with
want
this
you
because like I don't
messing
want
your
you
neck up.
messing your neck up.
But just very gently.
Roll
Roll your neck as you go through the drill.
as you go through the drill.
And tell me what happens.
And tell me what happens.
Okay, interesting.
Okay.
What did you
interesting.
experience?
What did you experience?
You didn't really feel it.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Okay.
What I noticed you doing.
What I noticed
so
you
that's
doing.
good. First
So
of all.
that's good.
So
First of all.
as we do our practice,
as we do our
I
practice,
want you to
I want
have
you
that slight
to
movement
have
there
that slight
to
movement
try
there
to remove,
remove
whatever this muscle is that's tensing
whatever
up.
this muscle is that's tensing up.
What I also noticed that
What I
in
also
your,
noticed that in your
drill, rather than
drill,
getting smaller,
rather than getting
we just
smaller,
got louder.
we just got
So you went,
louder. So you went.
You just went
You just
louder.
went louder. Okay.
Now loud is not what we're
Now
after.
loud is
okay?
not what we're after.
That's going to bring
okay?
those false.
That's going to bring
coming
those
in.
false vocal folds coming in.
So try instead.
We'll
set for volume.
We'll set
right?
for volume.
Imagine you're whispering.
Imagine you're whispering
directly
like,
into someone's
directly
ear,
into
or
someone's
like you're
ear,
whispering in the library.
or like you're whispering in the library. Okay.
So you don't want to be super loud.
So you don't want to be
okay?
super
If you're
loud.
whispering like
okay?
super loud,
You're
directly
whispering like
into
super loud directly
ear,
into someone's
that's going to be like really
That's
uncomfortable.
going to be like really uncomfortable
so
for them. So just
quietly like this. Okay. Excuse me. Just really quiet.
Just really quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you continue to have
As you
your
continue
flexing.
to have your flexing.
I guess try to position your mic.
I guess
so I'll
try
still
to
be able
position
hear
your
you.
mic so I'll still be able to hear you.
So I have to lean close to speak in the mic properly
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
because it's a laptop mic.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, that might have to be something
that
for
might
your
have to be
practice time
something
then.
for your practice time
Um, okay, main thing that I'm
main
hearing
thing that I'm hearing
is we're getting a whole bunch of
is we're getting
conflations
a whole
coming
bunch
in
of conflations
instead of
coming
having
in
our
instead of
size
having our
change.
size change.
Now, when you did for big
Now, when you did
sorry,
for
when
big
you did the
sorry, when you did the
big dog, little dog,
big
we
dog, little dog,
did have a
we
little bit of
did
that
have a
change
little
coming
bit of
in.
that change coming in.
So for you,
So for
I'm going to
you,
say let's
I'm
stick with
going to
big dog,
say
little
let's
dog
stick
for
with big
now.
dog, little dog for now.
Try to get
Try
bigger
to
dog
get
and
bigger
smaller
dog
dog,
and smaller
and
dog,
then try to bring that
and then
same.
try to bring
Once
that
you get
same.
like a very
Once you get like a
noticeable
very noticeable
sound change,
sound
try to bring
change,
that into
try to
our
bring that
whispered
into
words.
our
Okay,
whispered words.
so we can make
Okay,
sure that we
so
don't
we can
have
make
a
sure that we don't
oral
have
thing
a
coming in
oral thing coming
as
in
a conflation.
as a conflation.
Does that make sense?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
And as we're doing the big dog,
And as
little
we're
dog,
doing the big
I
dog,
want
little
you
dog,
to
I want
keep
you
nice and
to
quiet
nice
and
and
gentle,
quiet
so we
and
don't have
gentle,
that false vocal
so we don't
cord
have
stuff
that
coming
false
in,
vocal cord stuff coming
and
in,
get
and
some movement going,
get some
so we don't
movement
have
going,
whatever
so we
southern
don't
muscle
have
was
whatever
that's
southern muscle
tensing up.
was that's tensing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Last thing I
Yeah,
want
no
to say on
worries.
it as well.
Last thing I want to say on it as
As
well.
you start
As
dissociating
you
these
start dissociating these
behaviors that aren't within the
behaviors that
targeting,
aren't within
you
the
might
targeting,
find new
you
ones
might
cropping
find
up,
new
and
ones
it'll be a
cropping
bit of a
up, and it'll be
whack-a-mole.
a bit of a
Okay,
whack-a-mole.
it's just your
Okay,
brain
it's
searching
just
for
your
things,
brain
trying to figure
searching
out
for
what
things, trying to figure out
exactly is
what
this.
exactly is this.
So you may have other tensions
So you
coming
may
in.
have other
We treat
tensions
them in
coming
the
in.
exact same
We treat
way.
them in the exact same
Identify
way.
what it is.
Identify what it is.
Try and get some movement,
Try and get some
and
movement,
then practice
and
while
then
having that
practice
movement.
while having that movement.
Okay.
Okay.
All good.
Cool. All right.
Cool.
Good stuff.
All right. Good stuff.
All right. Sibilex, were you wanting a turn next?
Hi.
Hello. How can I help you?
So I think I have more or less the size and weight more or less controlled,
Okay.
but I still feel like there's something off about my voice.
Okay.
I don't
Do you think you
know,
can
like
describe
it doesn't sound fully feminine, like it's. I feel like there's still a bit of, I don't know, a masculine touch in my voice. I don't know. It's a bit weird.
Okay. Okay. Firstly, do we have a goal more specific than just femme?
Not really. I mean, I have some voices that I more or less aspire to, but most also I first want to like fully dominate my voice on English before I switch to my native language, which is Spanish.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So yeah, that would be my goals.
So firstly, you might find that when you switch to Spanish, everything is suddenly out of whack. That's normal. Don't worry about it. As you keep practicing in Spanish, it'll stabilize again. Yeah, no reason, Nelicia. Thank you for speaking. Yeah, so first thing I want to laser in on is what is it that you're specifically feeling is off. And that's why I'm asking you about your goals. So for the voices that you are aspiring towards, what is it in their voice that you're liking?
Sorry, I don't know how to really explain it, but and more natural maybe, or more I really don't know how to explain it. I don't know.
Okay, so first thing I would do is listen to their voices compared to voices that are feminine voices, but aren't like what you're looking for, and see if you can identify what it is. Okay. And if you have like clips of voices, I can help you with that if you need it. Because one thing to watch out for is we want clear and specific goals. One thing I often notice with people who don't have clear and specific goals is they just try to chase femme voice. And a problem you have there is there's no such thing as the femme voice. There's a whole bunch of feminine voices. It's a category. It's not a singular item. So if you're chasing the feminine voice, you'll never get there because it doesn't exist. Because there's a whole range of voices that fit into that. So there's the first thing. You're telling me size and weight. You're pretty happy with both of those. And yeah, I mean, sounds to me like they were in a place where I would expect to be most people's goals if they're feminizing. Um, so yeah, we'd need to be more specific on what is it that's out of whack. Um, to me, I guess I should ask to you. Um, do you feel your voice sounds cartoonish at all? You mentioned natural earlier. Um, is natural as opposed to cartoonish, or is it a different variable?
I would say it's more. Can I pass a clip from here?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Just stick in a chat.
Okay, this. I
Mhm.
think
So
like
this is what you're
that
aiming
would be a
towards.
yeah.
Okay, I'll give it a listen.
And then I'm gonna go home, and then I'm gonna fall off of it immediately because I'm gonna not be on the same time zone anymore. It's gonna be completely shifted. Yes.
Okay, so main things I'm hearing in her voice is we have small size, lightweight as you'd expect.
Somewhere.
Sounds reasonably full. Let me double check that.
But yeah, if you do it every night, even though it's difficult, it becomes predictable, and then your body.
Yeah, sounds reasonably full. Slightly lower pitch, and I'm not really hearing any tone mods. Listen again
used
for
to it,
anything.
and then I'll start getting tired earlier instead of getting tired at 1 to 2 a.m. You know.
Oh, a little bit of fry on her downward inflections,
It's working pretty okay though.
and a lot of pitch movement. So while often she's at a lower pitch, she has a lot of movement in her pitch. Yeah, do any of those ring through as things that you're not feeling in your voice, that you're wanting in your voice?
I think the pitch is more or less easy to simulate the going higher and then lower, no?
Yeah, I think you certainly don't sound monotonous. You have a reasonable amount of pitch movement. It all
So
sounds, yeah.
I mean, maybe the fry thing. I don't really understand what fry is about.
So Fry,
So,
in her voice, she'll kind of dip into here in her downwards. So when the pitch is going down, da 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 da, she'll have a little bit of pitch coming in. Listen for this crackly sound in her voice. Every so often, she'll just dip into it for a second.
so
Listen through.
something like
Every
this.
so often, she just dips in, just for a moment. Similarly to how I do, where I'm not like talking like this all the time,
So
but
something
occasionally
like
hear in my
this.
voice where I'll do that. Yeah.
So
I'm just gonna try something.
so something like this, like let's see.
I think you had it for a moment there.
Wait, what can I? The moon is in doubt
Try.
whether to be a man or a woman.
Sorry, say that again.
Like that. The moon is in doubt of whether to be a man or a woman.
You're asking if Fry sounds masculine or feminine?
Yeah.
It's neutral. Different people have Fry. The only things that are going to be your gendered things are going to be that size and weight. Okay?
Okay.
In terms of size and weight, you're in a pretty similar space to one another. In terms of you in the clip.
I also had another clip. I'm like, if I didn't like, if I chose this voice because it sounds like a bit easier to like a reasonable goal.
Yeah.
But I prefer this one a bit more, which sounds.
You prefer the first one or you prefer the second one?
The second one. It sounds
Okay.
like more feminine, like more hyper feminine,
And I'm
maybe.
just like, no,
The word I will use to describe it.
bunnies.
Like a part of higher pitch, I don't know
This is
what
unrefined.
what really is the difference.
Yeah, I'm just going to listen to it. The timestamp you sent me, she's just digging. Talk, say something. I'll skip ahead a little bit.
Your slope.
There we go.
I just
And then I get an ad.
This is a better
Okay, hang on.
top-down roguelike and bullet hell game on PC.
Yo. Huh? You haven't saved the game for 30 minutes. Thanks for the warning, game.
Okay. I'm not hearing like large sentences. I'm just hearing like little snippets because of a particular video. Generally what I'm hearing here is Lola moving around in pitch. It sounds like she's kind of putting on a bit of a voice because she kind
Almost
of
$100.
yeah, I heard her. She kind of lost it for a moment, and then repeated herself going back to it. So she's playing around a lot with pitch, generally having a higher pitch. Is the size really that different? I feel like no. Oh my gosh, adverts! I hate this so much. There you go.
And then I'm gonna go home, and then I'm gonna fall off of.
Yeah, slight size change. So I think in the second one, we're having little bits of OPC sometimes. I hate that the Discord player will just completely restart the video each time. Click off it. You have to redo ads again. And I get double ads. I love that. Come on. There you go.
And I'm just like, no, not the pet.
Also, in the second one, she plays with her M2 a little bit. Like she's going like, oh my god, no, not the pick, or whatever it was. Assuming some tool broke in the game. So you could try playing around with your M2 if you want to be expressive. I doubt she does that normally when speaking. She's just in entertainer mode. She's expressing like, oh my gosh, no, the pick broke. But you could play around with M2 when you're trying to be more expressive. And then, yeah, we could try doing some stuff with OPC. Because when you say hyperfeminine, I'm usually going to be moving us towards that area. So this is a little trickier one to teach. But OPC is basically, if I bring up my little OPC picture. Boo, 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 boo. Where is it? There it is. Can I easily bring this into OBS? If I move over to just chatting. Okay, so OPC is this. Wow, my lighting is really making me like scuffed as fuck. Okay, so this right here, we'll put it in front of my face. Yay. Okay, this is OPC in action. Now, I want you to look. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you to look properly. Okay. Look at the very back of this dude's throat, and you can see there's this little arch, okay? So you have a little pointy things coming from the side. I'm doing gestures, so I should probably move a little bit. We've got little pointy things coming from the side. Ignore those. Okay, we've got the little dangly thing, the uvula. Ignore that. Behind all of that, there's an arch, okay? It's called a platopharyngeal arch. You don't need to worry about that. The point is, this thing, you can see in the GIF, it can expand and it can contract. And that can make a sound kind of like this. Hey, now I have this really hyper feminine kind of a voice. And I sound much, much smaller, almost verging on like childlike at this voice. If you've heard Z from Trans Voice Lessons, especially in her earlier videos, she had a whole bunch of this going on. Can I still do the voice? Hi, this is Z. Fuck, I don't remember the line. Hi, hey, it's your girl, Z, from Trans Voice Lessons. That's my impression. So we have a whole bunch of OPC to create that. Now, it's a little bit of a tricky one. There's two ways you can figure this out. One is, it isn't a great method because it is just physical control, but it's out there. Put your face in front of a mirror, go, okay, drop your tongue, okay, and then shine a flashlight inside your mouth. You just use like the torch on your phone, and you can do exactly what's being done in this GIF, okay? Try to bring it smaller, try to expand it. We can also use some vowels that include heavy amounts of OPC to try to encourage that change, okay? Which is a drill I slightly prefer, but it can be a little bit less intuitive for people. So what I want you to try doing is I want you to say the sentence E speaking from E.
E speaking from E.
Okay, I want that E to kind of ring through the whole sentence, okay? Because E promotes this OPC, all right? Now, this is a tricky one because I want the OPC coming through, but I don't like the smile that comes from E. I don't want the closed mouth that comes from E, but I do want that back of the throat thing that's in E, okay? E speaking from E.
E
Try-
speaking from E.
There you go. Do you hear that brighter sound coming through? E speaking from E, but slightly different to how your
E
voice
speaking
sounds
from E.
normally.
E speaking from E.
Okay, now try to bring that into just some more speech. Okay, this is tricky. Listen for that
Okay.
smaller sound of E brings, and then take that into some more talking. Just tell me about your day or something.
It's really hot today. And it's going to
Start with
get
the
even
sentence.
hotter.
Start with E speaking
Okay.
from E, and then go into telling me about your day.
E speaking from E. E speaking from E. It's going to get even hotter in about 2 days. And I don't want
Yeah.
to step outside of my home. E speaking from E. So something like that.
Yeah, kind of. So we're having that smaller size that you can hear in your voice. Obviously, this is me doing huge amounts of it to help you hear it better. Play around with that, okay? E speaking from
Okay.
E will encourage you to get that smaller size, okay? Play around with that. Really listen for the size change that the sentence is encouraging. All right, this is a tricky one, okay?
Okay.
So far, I'm on the lookout for better teaching techniques of that, and so far I haven't come across any. But that's the best we've got so far. Not an easy one to learn, but once you get it, you'll be like, oh, that's the thing, and you can start practicing proper. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, I'm gonna pause us there because I need the toilet. But if you have further questions, fill the chat with your questions, and then I'll answer them once I get back. Okay. See you in a second. And hello YouTube. Hello. Yo, my hair is going crazy. What the hell? Okay, that kind of works. The mirror's over there now. Hey, okay, did we have further questions? We'll just hide our little OPC thing for now. Oh, I've already done this before. We always have an OPC thing that I previously added on and then hidden. Lol. Let's delete the new one, I guess. Yeah, okay. Any other questions that people have? Headphones in case. And again, Speak Next, Go Next if you want some help with your voice. You're thinking maybe your trouble came from being hunched forwards towards the mic on the laptop rather than being relaxed. Oh yeah, that could totally be a thing. Remember, golden rule from before, make sure we're staying nice and relaxed. I've realized I'm like totally out of whack on the camera. Sorry for weird mic sounds. There you go. Yeah, make sure we are staying relaxed. Last thing I showed was crazy. The arch. Or are you just trying to make it thin or vertical? Or should you lower the upper arch near the uvula? Okay. The arch right at the back. Okay, behind the uvula. If I move over here. I'll just grab my mic for a sec. Okay, behind the uvula, further back, all right? So we have the dangly thing. That's the uvula. There's an arch behind it, okay? Behind it, all right? That's what I want you maneuvering. All the rest of it, don't worry about it. That's just things that are specific to the person that is demonstrating just there. You might find that your uvula moves around. Don't even worry about it. The main thing is I want that palatopharyngeal arch. You don't need to remember that term. I want that thing to be moving. All right? Let me move this again. Get myself more in the center. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah? Cool, cool. And again, the sound change you're trying to get is this kind of sound change here, where we have this really hyper feminine voice coming through. It could almost sound more childlike. Again, if you're thinking like Z from Trans Voice Lessons, especially in her early videos, like in the video where she does her beginner guide, she has a lot of this. She took some of it away in some of the later videos. Hey, this is Z. I do not remember what she says. Throws me off every time. Hey, it's your girl, Z, from Trans Voice Lessons. Okay? This kind of sound in my voice right now is me having a huge amount of OPC. You're just thinking super... Oh, yeah. Heat from fire, fire from heat. Yeah, you're just going for a super bright voice. And the American sound there is just me copying Z. There's nothing to do with American sound, okay? Yeah, so I can have my ordinary British accent while also having this huge amount of OPC. Okay? Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I am so sweaty right now. It is so warm here in the UK. It sucks. My makeup is totally out of whack. My freaking camera is totally out of whack right now. I look horrendous. This is... ugh. Any other questions from you guys? And you know what? While you ask questions, I'm going to play with my camera because this is horrific. Is it a white balance that's off? I think it's a white balance as well as like the contrast maybe. We'll go for the contrast first. Oh, no, not that one. Sorry about that. Yeah, any other questions at all? Saturation? Is it you? Saturation is part of it. That's a bit more normal. And then, although, no, that kind of seems really low quality now, though. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how any of this works. White balance? Maybe. I don't know. What if I put it on auto for white balance? No, that's not right. I just take it. Ugh. I hate when it does this. Okay, well, if we have no further questions, then I'll finish us here with my horrendous looking camera that looks ridiculous. Okay, well, thank you all so much for coming. Reminder that we do this every single week. So by all means, swing by next week if you'd like to. And yeah, other events that we have here. I need to speak to Lee, our makeup artist, about the next makeup workshop. because we would normally be having one. Why is the event saying, oh, maybe Lee's already set it up. Maybe Lee's already cancelled that one. Because Lee's got a move coming up, so that might just mess with stuff. I need to speak to him about that. But you'll find out when the next one comes, because I'll make an announcement or something. In terms of upcoming stuff, other than that, we have, if I check my calendar, I think we've got a whole bunch of public lessons next week. Oh, my calendar needs updating. So we have, I believe we have a public lesson on Monday, and that would be 12 o'clock. That was Jane's that had to be cancelled last week. And then we also have Mara, our usual Wednesday, 1 o'clock. Both of those will be followed up by a live stream. So if you have voice questions, then swing by for that. Or if you want to just see what my teaching looks like, then swing by for those. And if you'd like your own lessons, then head to the 101 section. It's just 101 lessons, the category. Head to the info page, have a little read through. Head to the #101 lessons channel, and you can open a ticket and book your lessons. So yeah, I think that's our main stuff. Huge thank you again to the Ko-fi people for supporting. Huge thank you to Ria, because that's freaking crazy that you subscribe at tier 3. So huge thank you to her. Oh no, to him. Sorry, Ria, to him. It's because I've now set you to wait, your profile. Okay, never mind. It's not my fault. You put she, her, and you put he, him. You have it as she, her? Oh, your Discord pronouns are he, him. So on I should clarify. On your actual Discord profile, you have it as he, him, and then in the server you have the role she, her. Maybe that's something you're wanting to change. It's just like in your settings, don't worry about it. Yeah, makes sense. No, totally fine. Yeah, huge thank you to Ria. Her support is a huge part of why you get these workshops. So yeah, thank you. It's really good of you. Cool. I think that's all the stuff. To YouTube if you want to head to YouTube. This VOD will be up live from now onwards. So for people that have had some feedback today, if you want to go back over that, just head to YouTube. The link is below me, but youtube.com/@trans_network, and you can go back over your feedback bit and replay it and work through it again and again if you need to. Yeah, I think that's all the stuff. All right. Thank you all so much for coming. And I'll see you next week. All right. Or I'll see you Monday, I guess. That's going to be the next thing. I'll see you all Monday. All right. Bye-bye to everybody. Bye-bye. Bye. And bye-bye to YouTube. Bye-bye.